When the dead won't stay silent, the outcast girl who faced a vengeful ghost, to save the alpha who cast her out. Arden Vale was never welcome anywhere. Her ability to see the dead got her hunted out of every town she'd ever known. But when a wolf with human eyes led her to a decaying estate in the cursed Thornridge Forest, she thought she'd finally found shelter. Instead, she walked into a nightmare, a grieving alpha whose dead mate's ghost wouldn't let go, children starving for warmth, and a house that fed on despair. They called her crazy. They threw her out. But when that ghost tried to drag them all to hell, only Arden could stop it. Stay until the end to see how she breaks the curse. Like and comment what city you're watching from. The snow came down like broken glass. Arden Vale wrapped her threadbare coat tighter around her ribs and kept walking. Her boots, held together with wire and prayer, crunched through the frozen crust. Each step sent pain shooting up her calves, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Behind her, 3 towns and a lifetime of rejection. Ahead, nothing but trees that looked like they'd been dead for centuries and a forest everyone said was cursed. Good. Cursed was better than what she'd left behind. Her breath came out in ragged clouds. The cold bit through her coat, through her skin, straight down to the marrow. She'd been walking for 2 days, maybe 3. Time got slippery when you hadn't eaten, when you hadn't slept, when the voices of the dead kept whispering in your ears like static you couldn't tune out. You shouldn't be here. Arden stopped, turned. Nothing but trees and shadows. The voice had been close, right behind her left shoulder, but there was nobody there. Never was. That was the problem. That was always the problem. I know, she muttered back, because, trust me, I'd rather be literally anywhere else. The dead woman didn't respond. They rarely did after that first warning. They just watched. Arden had learned to ignore the watching, mostly. She started walking again. The forest closed in around her like a fist. The trees here were wrong, twisted, bark peeling like skin, branches reaching down instead of up. The snow didn't settle right either. It fell, but it didn't stick to anything, just hung in the air, suspended, like the whole forest was holding its breath. Arden's fingers had gone numb an hour ago. She flexed them inside her pockets, trying to get blood flowing. Nothing. She needed shelter, needed fire, needed... A howl split the air. She froze. That wasn't a normal wolf. She'd heard plenty of wolves in her 23 years of drifting from town to town, and they didn't sound like that. This was deeper, closer to human, like someone had tried to scream but their throat had forgotten how. The howl came again, and this time she saw it. The wolf stood 30 feet away, massive and gray, its fur matted with ice. But it was the eyes that stopped her cold. Not yellow, not animal. Human eyes, pale green and far too aware, staring at her with an intelligence that made her skin crawl. Okay, Arden said slowly. Okay, you're either going to eat me or you're not. Let's just get this over with. The wolf didn't move, just kept staring. Arden stared back. She'd seen too much weird shit in her life to panic now. Dead people talked to her. She'd watched a woman's ghost rip her murderer's throat out in a barn outside Millbrook. She'd seen things that would make normal people lose their minds. A wolf with human eyes? That barely made the top 10. You gonna do something or just stand there judging me? She asked. The wolf turned and started walking. Arden blinked. Are you serious? The wolf looked back at her, those green eyes expectant, then kept going. This is how people die in stories, Arden muttered. But she followed anyway. What choice did she have? Freeze to death out here alone, or follow the definitely cursed wolf and maybe find shelter? At least the second option was interesting. They walked for what felt like hours. The wolf moved with purpose, weaving through the trees like it knew every root, every hidden drop. Arden stumbled behind, her legs screaming, her lungs burning from the cold. The dead woman's voice had gone silent, which meant either she'd given up or something worse was coming. Then the trees opened up. The estate rose out of the snow like a skeleton. 3 stories of stone and timber, windows dark as empty eye sockets, a roof that sagged in the middle like a broken back. Vines crawled up the walls, black and withered. The front door hung slightly open, and even from here Arden could feel it, that heavy, wrong pressure in the air, like standing next to a grave that hadn't been dug deep enough. The wolf sat down at the edge of the clearing and looked at her. "You want me to go in there," Arden said. The wolf didn't move. "That place looks like it eats people." Still nothing. "Fine." Arden pushed past the wolf, her boots sinking into deeper snow. "But if I die, I'm haunting you, just so we're clear." The front door opened before she could touch it. A little girl stood in the doorway, maybe 6 years old, wearing a nightgown that had probably been white once, but was now the color of old bones. Her hair hung in tangled dark curls around a face that was too thin, too pale, eyes too big and too hungry. "Are you real?" the girl whispered. Arden's throat tightened. "Yeah, kid, I'm real. Papa said no one real would come." The girl's voice cracked. "He said we're alone forever." "Well, your papa was wrong." Arden crouched down to the girl's level, ignoring the way her knees screamed in protest. "What's your name?" "Lila." "I'm Arden. Is your papa home?" Lila nodded, but her expression went dark, scared. "He's always home. He doesn't leave anymore. Not since Mama—" She stopped, looked over her shoulder into the darkness of the house. When she looked back, there were tears in her eyes. "You should go. It's not safe here." "Safer than out there." "No," Lila said, and her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "It's not. Mama's still here, and she's angry." A chill ran down Arden's spine that had nothing to do with the cold. She knew that tone, recognized it from 100 other encounters with the dead and the people they left behind. "Lila," a boy's voice, older, from somewhere inside. "Get away from the door." A second child appeared, maybe 10, with the same dark hair and pale skin but harder eyes. He grabbed Lila's shoulder and pulled her back. "We don't need charity," he said, staring at Arden with open hostility. "And we don't need strangers." "Good thing I'm not offering charity." Arden stood up. "I need a place to sleep that won't kill me. You need someone who isn't a ghost. Seems like a fair trade." The boy's jaw tightened. "How do you know about the ghost?" Arden smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Because I can see her, right behind you. Black dress, dark hair, really pissed off expression. She's been dead, what, 2 years? 3? The boy went white. 2 years, he whispered. "How can you—" "Doesn't matter. What matters is I'm freezing. I haven't eaten in 2 days, and if you turn me away, I'll probably die before sunrise. So either let me in or shut the door. I'm tired of standing here." The boy stared at her for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. The inside of the estate was worse than the outside. The entrance hall stretched into darkness, lit only by a single oil lamp that cast more shadows than light. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing water-stained plaster underneath. The floor was covered in a layer of dust thick enough to show every footprint, and there were only small tracks, children's tracks. No adult had walked here in a long time, but it was the cold that hit her hardest. Not the cold from outside. This was different, deeper, the kind of cold that came from the inside out, from something fundamentally wrong with a place. "There's bread in the kitchen," the boy said, not looking at her. "Not much, but you can have some." "What's your name?" Arden asked. "Finn." "Well, Finn, thank you. And I'm sorry." He looked at her sharply. "For what? For whatever happened here?" She gestured around at the decay, the darkness. "For your mom. For all of it." Finn's expression cracked for just a second, showing the terrified child underneath. Then it hardened again. "Follow me." The kitchen was marginally better than the entrance hall. Someone had tried to keep it clean, at least. The table was scrubbed, the dishes stacked neatly despite being chipped and mismatched. A small fire burned in the hearth, barely enough to warm the immediate area. Finn pulled out a half loaf of bread that looked like it was made from sawdust in desperation. He cut off a chunk and handed it to Arden without ceremony. She bit into it. It tasted like cardboard, but it was food, and her stomach nearly wept with relief. "Where's your father?" she asked between bites. "Upstairs, in his room. He doesn't come down anymore." "How long?" Finn shrugged. "Months. He leaves food outside his door at night. That's it." "And you've been taking care of your sister alone." It wasn't a question. Finn didn't answer. Arden finished the bread and leaned back against the wall. The cold pressed in from all sides. She could feel the ghost now, hovering somewhere above them, watching, waiting. The air felt thick with rage and grief, and underneath it all, something else, something that made her skin crawl. "Your father," Arden said slowly. "He's not just grieving, is he?" Finn's hands clenched into fists. "I don't know what you mean." "Yeah, you do. I've seen it before. When someone dies and they don't want to go, sometimes they hold on. And when they hold on to a person," she trailed off, watching Finn's face, "they can make them do things, feel things, things that aren't real." "She won't let him go," Lila said from the doorway. Neither of them had heard her come in. "Mama won't let Papa go. She whispers to him all the time. We can hear it through the walls." "Lila, shut up." "No!" Lila's voice cracked. "I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of being quiet. Mama's dead, and she's hurting Papa, and nobody will help us, and I just want it to stop." She dissolved into sobs. Finn grabbed her, pulled her close, his own eyes red-rimmed. Arden's chest tightened. These kids. Jesus, these kids. "I can help," she heard herself say. Finn looked up sharply. "You can't. Nobody can. We've tried. We brought a priest and he ran. We brought a doctor and he said Papa was insane. We're alone here, and we're going to stay alone until—" His voice broke. "Until whatever happens, happens." "I'm not a priest," Arden said. "And I'm not a doctor. But I've dealt with ghosts my whole life, some of them friendly, most of them not. Your mom—" She paused. "She's holding on because she thinks she needs to, because she's scared or angry or confused, but she's hurting you, all of you, and that needs to stop." "You can make her go?" Lila whispered. "I can try." "What do you want in return?" Finn asked, suspicious. "Nobody does anything for free. A place to sleep, food when you can spare it, that's it." "That's it?" "That's it." Arden met his eyes. "Look, kid, I've got nowhere else to go. Every town I've been to has thrown me out because I see things nobody else can see. I'm tired of running. You need help. I need shelter. It's not charity. It's survival." Finn stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Papa's room is upstairs," he said. "Second floor, end of the hall. But I'm warning you, he's not himself. He hasn't been for a long time. He might—" Finn swallowed hard. "He might hurt you." "I'll take my chances." The stairs creaked under Arden's weight, each step groaning like it was in pain. The second floor was darker than the first, the hallway stretching into shadows that seemed to move on their own. The walls were covered in portraits, family pictures, wedding photos, all of them showing the same people. A woman with dark hair and fierce eyes. A man with broad shoulders and a rare smile. The children, younger and happier. And in every single portrait, someone had scratched out the woman's eyes. Arden's breath caught. This was bad. This was worse than she'd thought. The door at the end of the hall was closed, but she could hear something behind it. A voice. Low and broken, talking to someone who wasn't there, or someone who shouldn't be there. She knocked. The voice stopped. "Go away." A man's voice, rough from disuse. "Can't do that," Arden called back. "Your kids let me in. I'm not leaving until I talk to you." "I said go away." And I said no. Arden tried the handle. Locked. "You can open the door or I can break it down. Your choice." Silence. Then, "You don't know what you're dealing with. I know you've got a ghost that won't leave. I know she's been dead 2 years and she's still here. I know she's hurting you and your kids, and I know nobody's been able to help." Arden leaned against the door. "But I can see her. I can talk to her, and maybe I can get her to let go." Another long silence. Then the lock clicked. The door opened 6 inches, and Arden got her first look at Cale Thornridge. He was a wreck. Tall, maybe 6'2", with shoulders that looked like they'd been carved from stone. But he was thin now, wasted, like he hadn't eaten properly in months. His hair was dark and tangled, his beard unkempt, his eyes, those same pale green eyes from the wolf, sunken and haunted. He wore clothes that had probably fit once, but now hung off him like rags. And behind him, just over his shoulder, stood the ghost. She was beautiful and terrible. Black dress, dark hair cascading down her back, skin pale as death. But it was her expression that made Arden's blood run cold, not sad, not lost, furious, possessive. Her hands rested on Kael's shoulders like claws, and her eyes, scratched out in the portraits but whole here, burned with an intensity that was almost physical. "You can see her," Kael said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, Everyone says I'm insane. You're not insane, you're haunted. There's a difference. Kael laughed, but it was a broken sound. Is there? Can I come in? He hesitated. The ghost's hands tightened on his shoulders, and he flinched. She doesn't want you here. I don't care what she wants. What do you want? Kael's eyes met hers, and for just a second, she saw it. The man underneath the grief, underneath the ghost's influence, desperate, drowning, holding on by his fingernails. I want her to let me go, he whispered. I want to be free. The ghost's face twisted with rage. The temperature in the hallway dropped 10 degrees in an instant. Arden's breath came out in visible clouds. Then let me in, Arden said. Kael stepped back. The room was a disaster. Clothes scattered everywhere, dishes stacked in corners, curtains drawn tight against any hint of light. The bed was unmade, sheets tangled like someone had been fighting them, and everywhere, on the walls, on the floor, even scratched into the bed frame, the same words over and over, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. Arden's stomach turned. How long has she been doing this, she asked. Since the fire. Kael's voice was hollow. Since the night she died. Tell me what happened. Why? So you can judge me too? I'm not here to judge, I'm here to help. Kael sank down onto the edge of the bed, his hands shaking. The ghost moved with him, never letting go, her face pressed close to his like a lover. It made Arden's skin crawl. There was a fire, Kael said finally. 2 years ago. It started in the east wing, spread fast. I was downstairs with the kids. She was upstairs, asleep. I heard her screaming. I ran up, but the smoke was so thick, the heat. His voice cracked. I couldn't reach her. The stairs were collapsing. I had to choose, her or the children. You chose the children. I chose the children. The words came out like a confession. I got them out. I went back for her, but it was too late. The whole wing collapsed. By the time we pulled her out, she was... He stopped, swallowed hard. She was gone. The ghost leaned in close, whispering something Arden couldn't hear. Kael's whole body went rigid. She says I abandoned her, he continued, his voice flat. She says I chose them over her. That I never loved her, that I... He broke off. She won't stop. She's in my head all the time, telling me things, showing me things. I can't eat, can't sleep, can't even think straight anymore. The kids, they try to help, but I can't... His hands clenched into fists. I can't let her poison them too, so I stay up here, away from them, where I can't hurt them. You're not hurting them by grieving. You don't understand. Kael looked up at her and his eyes were wild. Sometimes I can't tell what's real. Sometimes I see her everywhere. Sometimes I hear her voice, and I think she's alive again. And then I remember, and it's like losing her all over again. The kids, they look at me like I'm a stranger, like I'm something to be afraid of. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am. The ghost smiled. It was a terrible, triumphant smile. Arden took a step forward. Listen to me very carefully. That guilt you're feeling, that's her. She's feeding it, making it worse. She's twisting your grief into something toxic because she can't let go. But you're not crazy, and you're not a monster. You made an impossible choice, and you saved your kids. That's what good fathers do. I let her die. You couldn't save everyone. Arden's voice cut through the room like a knife. The fire was too big. The building was collapsing. You did what you could, and she knows that. Deep down, she knows that. But she's so angry and so scared that she can't accept it. Kael stared at her. How do you know? Because I've seen it before. Ghosts hold on for different reasons. Some because they have unfinished business. Some because they don't realize they're dead. But some... Arden looked directly at the ghost. Some hold on because they're scared of what comes next. Because letting go means accepting that they're gone, and that's the hardest thing in the world. The ghost's expression flickered. For just a second, the rage cracked, showing something else underneath. Fear. Confusion. Grief as deep as Kael's. I can help her move on, Arden said, but I need you to trust me. Why would you do this? Kael asked. Why would you help us? Because nobody else will. Because I know what it's like to be alone. And because... She stopped, looked at the scratched-out portraits, the desperate words carved into every surface, the broken man in front of her. Because you deserve better than this. All of you. Cale's eyes filled with tears. I don't even know your name. Arden Vale. I'm Kyle. He laughed weakly. But you probably figured that out. Yeah? He stood up slowly, like a man testing whether his legs would hold him. The ghost tried to pull him back, but for the first time he resisted, pulled away from her grip. She snarled, the sound inhuman, and the room's temperature plummeted. Frost spread across the windows. The lamp flickered. She's fighting back, Arden said. What do I do? Stand your ground. She's been controlling you for 2 years. She's not going to let go easy. The ghost screamed. It was a sound that shouldn't have been possible, a wail that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls shook, the portraits fell, glass shattering. The scratched words began to glow with a faint, sickly light. Kyle staggered, his hands going to his head. She's in my mind. Fight it. I can't. Yes, you can. Arden grabbed his shoulders, forced him to look at her. You're stronger than her. You're alive, and she's not. Don't let her win. For a moment, Kyle's eyes cleared. He straightened, pushing back against the invisible force trying to drag him down. The ghost shrieked again, but this time there was desperation in it. Then the door burst open. Finn and Lila stood there, eyes wide with terror. Papa! Stay back, Kyle shouted. But it was too late. The ghost turned her attention to the children, and the rage on her face intensified. She'd protected them once, loved them once, but now they were just obstacles, just things keeping her from what she wanted. The temperature dropped so fast Arden could see ice forming on the children's clothes. No, Kyle breathed. Not them. Please, not them. The ghost smiled again, and then she struck. Kale screamed as something invisible seized him, lifted him off the ground, and slammed him against the wall hard enough to crack plaster. He fell in a heap, gasping. Papa! Lila ran forward. Don't! Arden grabbed her, pulled her back. The ghost was between them and Kyle now, hovering like a storm about to break. Get them out of here, Kale gasped. Blood ran from his nose. Get them out! I'm not leaving you. Arden, please! The ghost raised her hand, and every piece of broken glass in the room lifted into the air. Dozens of shards, all pointed at the children. Arden's mind raced. She'd dealt with angry ghosts before, but nothing like this. Nothing this powerful. This ghost had been feeding on Kyle's grief for 2 years, growing stronger, more tangible. She was past the point of reason. But there had to be something, some way to... The wolf with human eyes. Arden looked at Kyle, really looked at him. The green eyes. The barely contained strength even in his wasted state. The way the children had said Papa doesn't leave anymore. You're a shifter, she said. Kyle's eyes widened. How did you... The wolf that led me here. That was you, wasn't it? Part of you, still fighting to protect them. He didn't answer, but he didn't need to. The truth was written all over his face. She's binding you, Arden continued, pieces falling into place. Not just emotionally, magically. She's wrapped herself around your wolf, keeping you trapped in human form, keeping you weak. She turned to face the ghost. That's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? If he shifts, if he becomes what he really is, he'll be too strong for you to control. The ghost's face twisted with fury. Let him go, Arden said. Let him shift, or I swear I will find a way to rip you out of this world by force. You can't, the ghost said, and it was the first time Arden had heard her voice. It was beautiful and horrible, layered with echo and static. I'm part of him now. Destroy me, you destroy him. She's lying, Kyle said from the floor. Arden, she's... The glass shot forward. Arden threw herself in front of the children, arms spread wide. She felt the first shard bite into her shoulder, then another into her arm. Pain exploded through her, but she didn't move. Didn't let them through. Stop! Kyle roared. And something in his voice changed, deepened, became something more than human. The ghost's concentration broke for just a second. The glass fell harmlessly to the floor. Kyle stood, and he was shaking. Not from weakness, from barely contained power. His eyes blazed green. His hands were clawed. You've had 2 years, he said, and his voice was gravel and growl. 2 years of my grief, my guilt, my pain. You fed on it, used it, twisted it into chains, but I'm done. He took a step forward. I loved you. God, I loved you more than anything. But you're gone, and I'm still here. My children are still here, and we deserve to live. The ghost screamed, and it sounded like the world breaking. The room exploded, every window shattered, the walls cracked, the floor buckled. And in the center of it all, Kyle began to change. His body rippled, bones breaking and reforming, skin giving way to fur. In seconds, the man was gone, replaced by the massive gray wolf Arden had seen in the forest. But this time, he wasn't alone. He wasn't trapped. The wolf snarled at the ghost, and the sound was pure defiance. The ghost lunged for him, trying to wrap herself around him again, but the wolf was faster. He dodged, twisted, and when he howled, it was a sound of pure freedom. The bonds shattered. Arden felt it, the magical ties that had been holding him unraveling like cut rope. The ghost stumbled backward, suddenly less solid, less real. No, she whispered. No, you can't leave me. The wolf turned to Arden. Their eyes met, and she understood. He couldn't end this. Only she could. Arden stepped forward, ignoring the blood running down her arm, ignoring the pain. She'd been running her whole life, from town to town, from rejection to rejection, always alone, always unwanted. But not here. Not anymore. She looked at the ghost, really looked at her, past the rage, past the possessiveness, to the woman underneath. You're scared, Arden said softly. You died, and you don't know what comes next. So you held on to the only thing you knew, him. But you're hurting him. You're hurting the children you loved, and deep down, you know that's not what you want. The ghost's form flickered. He left me. He saved them. That's what you would have wanted. That's what any mother would want. I'm alone. No. Arden reached out her hand. You're not. Whatever comes next, you don't have to face it alone. But you have to let them go. You have to let him go. The ghost stared at Arden's outstretched hand, at the wolf, at the children huddled in the doorway. I'm scared, she whispered, and for the first time she sounded human, lost, small. I know, but it's time. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the ghost reached out. Her hand passed through Arden's, insubstantial, but the intention was there, the acceptance. Tell them I'm sorry, the ghost said. Tell them I loved them, even at the end, especially at the end. They know, Arden said, tears streaming down her face. They've always known. The ghost smiled, and it was sad and beautiful and final. Thank you. And then she was gone. The room went still. The oppressive cold lifted. The scratched words on the walls faded. The portraits stopped their whispering. Kael shifted back to human form, collapsing to his knees, naked and shaking. Finn grabbed a blanket from the bed and threw it over his father's shoulders. Papa? Lila whispered. Kael looked up at his children, and his eyes were clear for the first time in 2 years. I'm here, he said, his voice breaking. I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They crashed into him, sobbing, and he wrapped his arms around them like he'd never let go. Arden stepped back, her vision blurring. The adrenaline was fading, and with it, her strength. She'd lost a lot of blood. The room was starting to spin. Arden? Kael's voice, concerned. I'm fine, she lied. She wasn't fine. She was swaying on her feet, the world tilting sideways. She'd used everything she had, every ounce of strength, every shred of courage, and now there was nothing left. Her knees buckled. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Kael, still wrapped in the blanket, holding her like she weighed nothing. I've got you, he said. And for the first time in her life, Arden believed it. She woke up to sunlight, actual sunlight, streaming through clean windows, warming her face. For a second, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. The forest, the estate, the ghost, Kael. Arden sat up slowly. She was in a bed, a real bed with clean sheets and a quilt that smelled like lavender. Her shoulder and arm were bandaged, the cuts from the glass cleaned and dressed. Someone had changed her out of her filthy traveling clothes into a nightgown that was too big but soft as clouds. The room was simple but clean. A dresser, a chair, curtains that actually matched. On the bedside table sat a tray with bread, cheese, and a cup of something that smelled like tea. The door opened and Lila peeked in. When she saw Arden was awake, her face lit up. "You're awake! Papa said you might sleep all day." "How long was I out?" "Since last night. It's almost noon." Lila came closer, shy but curious. "Papa fixed you up. He said you lost a lot of blood and we had to be quiet and let you rest." Arden touched the bandages. They were professionally done. Tight, but not too tight. "Where is your father?" "Downstairs. He's been cooking. Actually cooking. Finn and I didn't even know he remembered how." "And the ghost?" Lila's smile faltered for a second. "She's gone. Really gone. The house feels different now. Lighter." She paused. "Papa cried when he woke up this morning. But they were good tears, I think. He said he could breathe again." Arden's chest tightened. "I'm glad." "Are you going to stay?" Lila asked suddenly. "Papa said you probably need to rest for a few days, but after that, are you going to leave?" The question hit harder than Arden expected. Was she? She'd found shelter, completed the job. By all rights, she should be planning her next move. That's what she always did. But when she opened her mouth to say yes, she'd be leaving. The words wouldn't come. "I don't know," she said finally. Lila nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Well, I hope you stay. You're the first person who's been nice to us in a long time." She left before Arden could respond, closing the door gently behind her. Arden sat there for a long moment, staring at the sunlight. She'd spent her whole life running, never staying in one place long enough to call it home, never letting anyone close enough to matter. But something had shifted last night. When she'd stood between those children and the glass, when she'd looked into Kael's eyes and seen a man drowning, when she'd chosen to fight instead of flee, she stood slowly, testing her legs. Sore, but functional. The nightgown trailed on the floor as she walked to the window. The estate looked different in daylight. Still old, still damaged, but not dead. Not haunted. Just a house that had seen tragedy and was learning to breathe again. In the courtyard below, she could see Kael chopping wood. He'd cleaned up, shaved, washed, dressed in actual clothes that fit. He moved with purpose, with strength, each swing of the axe precise and controlled. The wolf was back in balance with the man. As if sensing her watching, he looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. He didn't smile. Neither did she. But something passed between them. An understanding, a recognition. She'd saved him. He'd caught her when she fell. Maybe that was enough for now. Arden turned away from the window and reached for the tea. It was still warm. Someone had been checking on her, making sure she had what she needed. For the first time in as long as she could remember, Arden felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not hope. Not yet. But possibility. She was still drinking the tea when someone knocked on the door. "Come in," she called. Kael entered carrying a bowl of something that smelled incredible. Stew, maybe, with actual vegetables and meat. He set it on the table beside the bed. "You should eat," he said. "You need your strength back." "Thanks." They stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then Kael cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology," he said. "For what?" "For not believing you could help. For being so far gone I couldn't see a way out." He met her eyes. "You saved my life last night. You saved all of us. And I don't know how to thank you for that." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." Kael sat down in the chair, and for the first time she could see how tired he was, how much the last 2 years had cost him. "I was ready to die. I'd accepted it. The only reason I hadn't was because I couldn't figure out how to do it without leaving the kids alone. But you, he shook his head. "You walked into hell without hesitation, for people you didn't even know. I knew enough." "Why?" The question was raw. "Why risk yourself like that?" Arden set down the tea. "Because nobody ever did it for me. Because I spent my whole life being thrown out, called crazy, told I was cursed. And I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of running." She looked at him directly. "You needed help. I could give it. It's that simple." "It's not simple at all." "No," she admitted. "I guess it's not." Kael leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Finn told me what you said. about needing shelter, about having nowhere else to go. Arden's defenses went up immediately. I'll leave as soon as I'm healed. I don't expect— Stay. She stopped. What? Stay, KL repeated. The house is too big for just the three of us. We could use the help. The kids— His voice softened. They haven't smiled like this in 2 years. Lila's already planning what to show you, and Finn actually spoke at breakfast without being prompted. I can't pay you much, but you'd have a room, food, a place to tea. He paused. A place to belong. Arden's throat tightened. You don't know me. I know you threw yourself in front of broken glass to protect my children. I know you faced down a vengeful ghost without flinching. I know you're brave and reckless and see things nobody else can see. He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. That's enough for me. What if more people come? What if they find out what I can do and all? Then we deal with it. Together. That word. Together. Arden had never had a together. Had never had anyone who'd stand beside her instead of throwing her out. I don't know how to do this, she said quietly. How to stay in one place. How to be part of something. Neither do I. Not anymore. Kael stood up. But maybe we can figure it out. He held out his hand. Arden looked at it, calloused, scarred, steady, and made a choice. She took it. Okay, she said. I'll stay. For a while, at least. For a while, Kael agreed, but the look in his eyes said he was hoping for longer. They stood there, hands clasped, the sunlight streaming in. Downstairs, she could hear the children laughing. Outside, birds were singing. The house wasn't haunted anymore. For the first time in her life, Arden felt like she'd come home. But in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered a warning. The ghost was gone, yes, but the estate still held secrets. And something about the way Kael had looked when he mentioned the fire, something he hadn't said, made her wonder if they'd truly dealt with everything, or if they'd only cleared away the first layer. That night, after dinner, the first real meal Arden had eaten in weeks, she helped Lila get ready for bed. The little girl chattered away about everything and nothing, her eyes bright with the kind of hope that came from believing things might actually get better. Did you really talk to Mama? Lila asked as Arden tucked her in. In a way. What did she say? Arden hesitated, then. She said she loved you, that she was sorry, that she wanted you to be happy. Lila's eyes filled with tears. I miss her. I know, sweetheart. But I'm glad she's not hurting Papa anymore. She grabbed Arden's hand. Does that make me bad? No. Arden squeezed back. It makes you human. You can love someone and still want them to let go. Those two things can be true at the same time. Lila nodded, processing. Then, I'm glad you came. Me too. After Lila fell asleep, Arden wandered back downstairs. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet. Not oppressive. Not heavy. Just peaceful. She found Kael in the library, staring at a portrait on the wall. His wife, before the accident, beautiful and alive, smiling at the painter with fierce joy. She was incredible, he said without turning around. Strongest person I ever met. When she loved with everything she had. He paused. That's what made it so hard. When she died, all that love had nowhere to go. It turned inward, became something poisonous. She couldn't help it, Arden said. I know, but it doesn't make it hurt less. He turned to face her. Thank you. For helping her find peace, for helping me remember who she really was. You're welcome. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kael said, There's something you should know. Arden's instincts prickled. What? The fire. It wasn't an accident. The bottom dropped out of her stomach. What? There were people who didn't want a shifter pack living this close to town. People who thought we were dangerous, unnatural. His jaw tightened. They came one night. Threw torches through the windows, barred the doors from the outside. If I hadn't been strong enough to break through. He didn't finish. Did they catch who did it? No. And I didn't push it. I was too broken, and the kids needed me, but they're still out there. And if they find out He stopped. If they find out we're recovering, that we're not broken anymore, they might come back. Arden's blood ran cold. Does anyone know I'm here? Not yet. But word spreads in small towns. Eventually, someone will notice. Then we'll deal with it when it comes. Kyle looked at her sharply. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. I chose to stay. That makes it my fight. Arden? No. She stepped closer. You said together, remember? That goes both ways. You protect me, I protect you. That's how this works. For a moment, Kyle just stared at her. Then he laughed. A real laugh, warm and surprised. You're terrifying, you know that? I've been told. Good, he sobered. Because things might get worse before they get better. They usually do. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. In the distance, something howled. A real wolf this time, not a shifter. The forest was waking up, and somewhere out there, in the town beyond the trees, people were talking, watching, waiting. The ghost was gone, but the real nightmare was just beginning. Arden looked at Kyle, at the determination in his eyes, at the way he stood just a little bit straighter now, at the life slowly returning to his face. They'd survived one battle. Whatever came next, they'd face it the same way, together. She just hoped it would be enough. The first sign of trouble came 3 days later. Arden was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, scrubbing dishes in water so cold it made her knuckles ache. Finn sat at the table behind her, supposedly doing arithmetic, but she could feel him watching her instead. The kid was always watching, always calculating, like he was trying to figure out if she'd disappear the moment he looked away. You gonna ask or just keep staring holes in my back? She said without turning around. Finn's pencil stopped scratching. Ask what? Whatever's been eating at you since breakfast. Silence. Then, why'd you really stay? Arden dried her hands on a rag and turned to face him. The boy's expression was guarded, suspicious. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good. I told you. I needed shelter. Bullshit. Language. You're lying. Finn stood up, and there was something of Kyle in the way he moved, that same coiled tension, like he was ready to either fight or flee, depending on what happened next. People don't just help. They want something. So what do you want? Nothing you can give me. See, that's what liars say. Arden laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I'm here to hurt you? To steal from you? What exactly do you think I'm after, kid? I don't know. That's what scares me. The honesty of it hit her harder than any accusation. She set down the rag and leaned against the counter, meeting his eyes directly. Your father saved my life, she said. Not literally, maybe, but close enough. I was freezing to death out there. Another night, and I would have been just another ghost in those woods. So yeah, I'm staying because I need shelter. But I'm also staying because for the first time in my life, someone didn't throw me out the second they realized what I could do. That means something to me. And when you get bored, when winter ends and you can leave without dying, then I'll decide. But right now, I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. Finn stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly and sat back down. Okay. Okay? Papa trusts you. That's enough, for now. Before Arden could respond, the front door slammed open. Kyle's voice, sharp and urgent. Finn, Lila, get upstairs, now. Arden was moving before she thought about it, Finn right behind her. They found Kyle in the entrance hall, still in his coat, snow melting in his hair. His expression was granite. What happened? Arden asked. Town. The word came out clipped. Someone saw me, asked questions. What kind of questions? The kind that means we don't have much time. He looked at his children. Upstairs, both of you. Don't come down until I say. Papa, Lila started. Now. They ran. Finn grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her toward the stairs, throwing one last look back at Arden that clearly said, I told you so. The moment they were gone, Kyle's facade cracked. He slumped against the wall, breathing hard. How bad? Arden asked. Bad. I went into town for supplies, tried to keep my head down, but someone recognized me, started asking where I'd been, how I was doing, whether I was... He stopped, swallowed. Whether I was still crazy. What'd you say? Nothing. Just paid and left. But they saw me, Arden. They saw I'm getting better, and that means they'll wonder why. Yeah. Kale pushed off the wall, started pacing. It was one of them. One of the men who was there that night. I recognized him, the way he looked at me, his hands clenched into fists. He knows something's changed, and if he tells the others, they'll come back to finish what they started. The room went very quiet. Arden's mind raced. She'd dealt with hostile towns before, with people who thought she was cursed, dangerous, wrong. But this was different. This wasn't about her. This was about a man and his children who'd already lost everything once. How many were there, she asked. That night? 4, maybe 5. I couldn't see clearly through the smoke. Do you know their names? Kael stopped pacing, looked at her. Why? Because if they're planning something, we need to know who we're dealing with. We? Arden, this isn't… Don't! She cut him off. Don't tell me this isn't my fight. We already had that conversation. This is different. These aren't ghosts. These are men willing to commit murder, to burn children alive. Then we make sure they don't get the chance. How? The word exploded out of him. How do we fight that? I'm one person. You're… He stopped himself, but the damage was done. I'm what? Arden's voice went cold. Say it. You're not a fighter. You don't know what I am. I know you're not a killer. And you are? She stepped closer, challenging. Because that's what it'll take, isn't it? If they come here, if they try again, you'll have to kill them. Can you do that? Kael's eyes flashed green, the wolf, close to the surface. If they threaten my children, I'll do whatever it takes. Then so will I. They stood toe to toe, neither backing down. The air between them crackled with tension, not hostility exactly, but something almost as dangerous. Recognition. The knowledge that they were both people pushed past their breaking points, held together by pure, stubborn will. You should leave, Kael said finally. Get out before this gets worse. I can give you money, supplies. No. Arden. I said no. She didn't raise her voice, but the finality in it was absolute. I'm staying, whether you like it or not. Why? The question was almost anguished. Why would you risk yourself for us? Because someone has to. Because those kids upstairs deserve better than living in fear. Because you… She stopped. Started again. Because I'm tired of running. And maybe, just maybe, this is a place worth standing and fighting for. Kael stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Like he couldn't quite believe she was real. Then footsteps on the stairs. Both of them turned to see Finn descending slowly, Lila right behind him. We heard, Finn said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. The men from the fire, they're coming back. You were supposed to stay upstairs, Kael started. We're not leaving. Finn's jaw set in a way that was pure Thornridge stubbornness. This is our home too. We have a right to know. Kael looked like he wanted to argue, but what could he say? The boy was right. Fine, he said finally. But you do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you. No arguments. Understood? Both children nodded. Good. Kael's expression shifted, became calculating. We need to prepare. Reinforce the doors and windows. Set up warning signals. If they come, we need to know before they get close. I can help with that, Arden said. I know some things. Tricks I learned living rough. What kind of tricks? The kind that make noise when someone crosses them. Tripwires, bells, things that'll give us advance warning. Kael nodded slowly. Okay, we start now. Finn, help me check the shutters. Leela, inventory the food supplies. We might need to hole up for a while. What about me? Arden asked. He met her eyes. Get whatever you need from your room. If this goes bad, there won't be time to pack. The implication hit hard. If this goes bad, we run or we die. They scattered. Arden went upstairs, her mind cataloging options. She didn't have much. The clothes on her back, a knife she'd stolen from a kitchen 2 towns back, a few trinkets that meant nothing to anyone but her. But she packed them anyway, stuffing everything into a small bag she could grab in seconds. As she worked, she caught movement outside the window. A figure, standing at the edge of the tree line, just watching. Arden's blood went cold. She crossed to the window, peering out. The figure was too far away to make out details, but she could see enough. Male, heavy coat, and the way he stood, casual, confident, like he had all the time in the world, like he was sizing up prey. She was downstairs in seconds. Kyle! He appeared from the kitchen, hammer in hand. What? Someone's watching. Edge of the forest, northwest side. Kael's expression went murderous. He moved to the window, looked out. The figure was still there. Son of a bitch, he breathed. That's Marcus. He was there that night, led the whole thing. He alone? Can't tell. Could be scouts, could be... He stopped, sniffed the air, his eyes widened. Smoke. What? I smell smoke. They ran to the back of the house. Through the kitchen window, they could see it, a thin trail of smoke rising from somewhere near the old barn. Not a lot. Not yet. But enough. They're testing us, Kael said, seeing how we react. Do we put it out? No, that's what they want. Get us outside, separated, vulnerable. He turned to face her. This is it. They're not waiting, they're starting now. Then we lock down, board the windows, bar the doors, and trap ourselves inside? Kael shook his head. That's what happened last time. The fire spread faster than we could react. We almost died. So what do? We take the fight to them. Arden grabbed his arm. That's suicide. You don't know how many there are. I don't care. Your children care. She got in front of him, forced him to look at her. You go out there half-cocked, you die. And then what? Those kids lose their father on top of everything else? So what's your brilliant plan? Wait here and let them burn us out? No, we make them come to us. On our terms. How? Arden's mind raced. She'd spent years surviving on the edges of society, learning to think like the desperate and the hunted. They want you scared, want you to run, so we do the opposite. We show them you're not the broken man they remember. You want me to go out there. Not to fight, to talk. Kyle laughed, harsh and bitter. Talk? To the men who murdered my wife? To buy time. While you're talking, I set traps. Real ones, not the warning kind. Things that'll make them think twice about pushing forward. That's insane. You have a better idea? He didn't. They both knew it. Fine, Kael said finally. But the second it goes sideways, you shift and you run. With the kids, I'll hold them off. Like hell you will. Kael, no. His voice dropped, became something deeper, more dangerous. I'm not losing anyone else. Not to them. Not to anyone. We do this together or we don't do it at all. The weight of that statement settled between them. Together. That word again. The one Arden didn't know how to handle. Okay, she said finally. Together. But we do it smart. Agreed. They started moving. Finn and Lila appeared, eyes wide with fear. What's happening? Lila whispered. Change of plans, Kael said, crouching to their level. I need you both to be very brave. Can you do that? They nodded. Good. Go to the cellar. There's a hidden door behind the wine rack. Get inside and don't make a sound, no matter what you hear. Understand? Papa, I'm scared, Lila said. I know, baby. Me too. But Arden and I are going to handle this. You just need to stay safe. Promise you'll come back, Finn demanded. Kael pulled them both close. I promise. It was a promise he might not be able to keep. They all knew it. But the children needed to hear it anyway. Finn led Lila away, and Arden watched Kael's face as they disappeared. The raw pain there, the desperate love. They'll be okay, she said. You don't know that. No, but I choose to believe it anyway. Kael looked at her. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. Probably both. Despite everything, he almost smiled. Then the front door shook with a heavy knock. They froze. Thornridge, a voice from outside. Rough, male, carrying. We know you're in there. Kael and Arden exchanged a glance. Here we go. Kael walked to the door slowly. Arden positioned herself to the side, out of sight but close enough to intervene if needed. He opened the door 6 inches. Arden could see through the gap. 3 men standing in the snow. The one in front was big, bearded, with the kind of face that looked like it had been punched often and deserved it every time. Marcus, presumably. What do you want? Kael's voice was flat. Just checking on you, neighbor. Marcus smiled, but it was a wolf smile. All teeth, no warmth. Heard you've been getting out and about again. Thought we'd see if you needed anything. I'm fine. You can go. Now that's not very neighborly. Marcus took a step closer. We've all been worried about you, living out here alone, your mind all twisted up. Must be hard. I said I'm fine. You sure about that? Because from where I'm standing, you look like a man who's forgotten his place. The smile vanished. Forgotten what happens to freaks who don't know when they're not wanted. Cale's hand tightened on the door. Get off my property. Or what? Marcus spread his arms. You gonna do something about it? You couldn't last time. What makes you think now's any different? Last time I was caught off guard. This time, I'm ready. Ready? Marcus laughed, and the men behind him joined in. With what? You're a shell, Thornridge. Everyone knows it. You've been locked up in this tomb for 2 years, talking to ghosts. You're not a threat. You're not anything. Arden saw the moment Kael's control started to crack, saw the wolf rising in his eyes. She stepped into view. All 3 men stopped laughing. Who the hell are you? Marcus demanded. Nobody important, Arden said. Just someone who doesn't like uninvited guests. This doesn't concern you, girl. Actually, it does. See, I live here now, which makes this my property too. And I'm telling you the same thing he is. Get lost. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You're the one they've been talking about in town, the crazy woman who sees dead people. Guilty? What's your game? You think shacking up with a broken shifter's going to keep you safe? Keep you fed? I think, Arden said carefully, that you should leave before this gets ugly. It's already ugly. Marcus took another step forward. You want to know what we did to his wife? We locked the doors and watched her burn, heard her screaming the whole time. And you know what? We'd do it again. Kael lunged. Arden barely caught him, throwing her whole weight against him. Don't! That's what he wants. Get off me! Think about your kids! That stopped him. He was shaking with rage, every muscle taut, but he stopped. Marcus laughed again. That's right. Hide behind the woman. That's all you're good for now. You need to leave, Arden said, her voice deadly calm. Right now, before I let him go. What are you going to do? He's pathetic. You're both... Arden saw it before it happened. Saw the way Marcus's hand went to his coat. Saw the glint of metal. Gun! She screamed. Kael shoved her aside and slammed the door. The wood splintered as a bullet tore through it, missing his head by inches. They hit the floor together. Outside, Marcus was shouting orders. Back entrance, Kael yelled. They'll try to flank. Glass shattered. A bottle sailed through the broken window, trailing flames. It hit the floor and exploded into fire. No, Kael breathed. No, not again. More glass breaking. More bottles. Fire spreading faster than should have been possible. They'd prepared this, planned it. This wasn't a warning. This was an execution. The children! Kael was on his feet, running. Arden grabbed a rug, tried to smother the nearest flames, but there were too many. The fire was eating through the old wood like it was hungry, like it remembered this place. Smoke filled the air. Arden's eyes watered, her lungs burning. She could hear Kael shouting for Finn and Lila, could hear the panic in his voice. Then she felt it. The temperature drop. The familiar pressure of something not quite physical. The ghost was back. No, not Kael's wife. Something else. Something older. The house itself, maybe, or the dozens of people who died in this forest over the years. The dead drawn to fire and fear like moths to flame, and they were angry. Arden stumbled toward the stairs, coughing. Kael! No answer, just the roar of flames and the shouts of men outside. She started up the stairs. The smoke was thicker here, disorienting. She couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Kael! Finn! Lila! A hand grabbed her ankle. Arden screamed, kicked, but there was nothing there. Just the sensation of cold fingers wrapped around her skin, pulling her down. The dead. They were everywhere now, whispering, grabbing, trying to drag her somewhere she couldn't follow. Let go! She kicked again, felt the grip release. She crawled up the rest of the stairs on hands and knees. The heat was overwhelming. The wallpaper was curling, blackening. Any second now, the structure would start to collapse. Arden! Kael's voice. She followed it, found him in the hallway. He had both children in his arms, their faces pressed against his chest. "Cellar doors blocked," he gasped. "Fire spread too fast. We're trapped." Arden looked around desperately. Every exit was cut off. The stairs behind her were already engulfed. The windows. "We jump," she said. "It's 20 feet." "You're a shifter. You can take it." "They can't." "Then you carry them." She grabbed his face, forced him to focus. "You shift. You take the children and you run. I'll find another way." "I'm not leaving you, Saki." "Yes, you are." She could feel the heat blistering her skin, could see the ceiling starting to crack. "Go, now." Kyle stared at her, and in his eyes she saw everything he wanted to say, everything there wasn't time for. Then he kissed her, hard and desperate and tasting like smoke and goodbye. "Don't die," he said against her lips. Then he was moving, carrying the children to the far window. Arden watched as his body began to change, bones cracking, fur sprouting. The wolf emerging. He jumped, children clutched carefully in his jaws, and disappeared into the night. Arden was alone. The fire closed in. The ghost screamed. The house groaned as it began to collapse. And somewhere below, Marcus was laughing. Arden made a choice. She ran toward the fire. Not away. Toward. Through the flames, through the smoke, through the impossible heat. The ghost tried to stop her, but she pushed past them. She'd spent her whole life being controlled by fear, by what other people thought, by the voices of the dead. Not anymore. She hit the stairs at full speed. The wood gave way beneath her feet, but momentum carried her forward. She crashed through burning debris, felt it tear at her clothes, her skin. Pain. So much pain. But she didn't stop. Ground floor. The front door was engulfed, but there, the window near the kitchen. Still intact. She grabbed a chair, hurled it through the glass. Cold air rushed in. Arden dove through, felt shards cut into her arms, her face, felt the impact as she hit the ground outside. Then hands grabbing her, rough, hostile. "Got the bitch!" Marcus's voice. Arden fought, but she was too weak. The smoke inhalation, the burns, the blood loss. Too much. They dragged her away from the house. She could see it now, fully engulfed, flames reaching toward the sky like grasping fingers. Everything Kale had left was burning. "Where's Thornridge?" Marcus demanded, shaking her. Arden smiled through bloody teeth. "Gone. You're too late." He hit her, hard enough to split her lip. "He can't have gone far. Not with those brats slowing him down. You'll never find him. Maybe not. But we've got you." Marcus pulled her up, his face inches from hers. "And when he comes back for you, because the stupid bastard will, we'll be waiting." Arden's vision swam. The world tilted. She was unconscious before she hit the ground. When she woke, everything hurt. She was in a cellar, not the Thornridge cellar, somewhere else. Stone walls, dirt floor, a single lamp casting weak light. Her hands were bound behind her back, her ankles tied together. And Marcus sat across from her, cleaning his gun. "Welcome back," he said without looking up. Arden's tongue felt thick. "How long?" "Couple hours. Thought we lost you there for a minute. Burns are pretty bad." He glanced at her. "But you'll live, for now." "Where are we?" "My place. Not far from the estate, or what's left of it." He smiled. "Hell of a bonfire, wasn't it?" Arden said nothing. "You're probably wondering why you're still breathing," Marcus continued. "Truth is, I need you. Bait's always more effective when it's alive and screaming. He won't come." "Yeah, he will, because that's what freaks like him do. They get attached, can't help themselves." Marcus leaned forward. "He'll come for you. And when he does, we'll put him down like the animal he is." "You're wrong about him." "Am I? I've known Kale Thornridge for 10 years, watched him pretend to be human, watched him play at having a family. But underneath all that," he tapped the gun against his knee, "underneath, he's just a beast, and beasts need to be put down before they hurt people. He never hurt anyone. He existed, in my town, near my family. That's hurt enough." Arden understood then. This wasn't about revenge or protection. This was about hate. Pure, simple, senseless hate. "You're going to kill me no matter what," she said. "Probably, but not yet. First we wait. See if your boyfriend's stupid enough to show." Marcus stood up. "Get comfortable. It's going to be a long night." He left, locking the door behind him. Arden waited until his footsteps faded. Then she started working on the ropes. They tied her well, but not perfectly. There was give, just enough. She twisted her wrists, ignoring the pain as the rough hemp cut into her skin. Blood helped, made things slippery. 10 minutes, 15, 20. The rope loosened. Her hands came free. She made quick work of the ankle bindings, then stood carefully. Her legs almost gave out, burns on her calves, deep and angry, but she stayed upright through sheer will. The door was locked from the outside. The walls were solid stone. But the ceiling... Arden looked up. Old wooden beams, gaps between them. And beyond that, floorboards. She was directly under Marcus's house. She tested the beam nearest the wall, solid, but the one next to it had a crack running through it. Rot maybe, or water damage. Arden braced herself against the wall and kicked. The beam cracked louder. Again. Again. On the fourth kick, it gave way. Dirt and debris showered down, and through the gap she could see into the room above. Empty. Dark. She climbed. Every muscle screamed in protest. The burns on her hands made gripping agony, but she pulled herself up, through the gap, into what looked like a storage room. Voices from elsewhere in the house. Male. Multiple. Marcus wasn't alone. Arden crept to the door, pressed her ear against it. 2 men, maybe 3, talking in low tones. Planning, waiting. She needed a weapon. The room had boxes, old furniture, nothing useful. Then she saw it. A broken chair leg, about 2 feet long, one end splintered to a rough point. Not much, but better than nothing. She picked it up, tested the weight. Solid enough. The voices moved, footsteps heading away. This was her chance. Arden opened the door a crack. Hallway, empty. She slipped out, moving as quietly as possible toward what looked like a back door. Almost there. Almost, "Hey!" She ran. Behind her, shouts. Footsteps pounding. She hit the back door at full speed, burst out into the cold night air, and ran straight into Kyle. He caught her, steadied her, human form, but barely. His eyes were wild, green bleeding through. "You came," she gasped. "Of course I came. Did you think... Behind you!" Kale spun. 3 men poured out of the house, Marcus in the lead. "Should have known you'd show," Marcus said. He raised his gun. "Makes this easier." Kale pushed Arden behind him. "Let her go. This is between us." "No. This is between me and every freak that thinks they belong in human society." Marcus aimed carefully. "Any last words?" Kale's body tensed, ready to shift, ready to fight. But before anyone could move, something else happened. The air went cold. Not winter cold, death cold. And the ghosts came. They poured out of the forest like a wave. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. The dead of Thornridge, of the town, of the forest itself. Drawn by violence and hatred and the stink of murder. They descended on Marcus and his men like locusts. The men screamed, fired their guns into empty air. But you can't shoot ghosts. One man went down, clawing at his own throat like something invisible was choking him. Another ran, straight into a tree, and didn't get up. Marcus stood frozen, his gun forgotten, staring at something only he could see. "My wife," he whispered. "No. No, you're not. You're dead." The ghost killed him. Arden couldn't see exactly how, but one moment Marcus was standing, and the next he was on the ground, eyes wide and empty, blood leaking from his nose and ears. The remaining men fled into the forest. The ghosts followed. And then, as quickly as they'd come, they were gone. Silence. Kyle and Arden stood alone in the snow, both shaking, both barely believing what they'd just witnessed. "What?" Kyle started. "I don't know." Arden's voice was thin. "I've never seen them do that before. Never seen so many at once." "You called them." "No, I can't control it." "Yes, you can." Kyle turned to her. "You might not realize it, but you can. They came because you needed them. Because..." He stopped. Looked at her like he was seeing something new, something that scared him. "Because what?" "Because you're not just someone who sees the dead. You're someone they listen to. Someone they..." He swallowed hard. "Someone they protect." The weight of that statement settled over her. All her life, Arden had thought her ability was a curse, something that made her broken, wrong. But standing here, watching Kael's expression, she realized something else. It made her powerful. And that terrified her almost as much as it terrified him. The children, she said, changing the subject. Where? Safe. Hidden. I came alone because you're an idiot who runs toward danger instead of away from it. Despite everything, Kael laughed. Look who's talking. They stood there for a moment, bloodied, burned, awed. The estate's gone, Kael said finally. I watched it burn. We'll rebuild. With what? I have nothing left. No money, no... You have your children. You have your life. Arden met his eyes. That's more than nothing. And you? His voice dropped. You could leave now. No one would blame you. You've been shot at, burned, kidnapped, and yet I'm still here. Why? Arden opened her mouth, closed it. How could she explain? That for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere? That these broken people had become hers and she theirs? That she was falling for a man who turned into a wolf and carried ghosts on his shoulders? Because you need me, she said finally, and I need you, and maybe that's enough. Kael stared at her. Then slowly he reached out and took her hand. His was shaking, so was hers. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. How to rebuild, how to trust again, how to... Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. Together? Together. They walked back toward the forest, toward the children, toward whatever came next. Behind them, Marcus's house stood silent. Inside on the table, Arden glimpsed something that made her blood run cold. A map, with marks on it, not just the Thornridge estate, other locations, other families, other shifters. Marcus hadn't been acting alone. This wasn't over. It had barely begun. But as Kael's hand tightened around hers, as they disappeared into the trees, Arden made herself a promise. Whatever came next, she wouldn't run. Not anymore. She'd found something worth fighting for, and she'd burn the whole world down before she let anyone take it. The safe house was a hunter's cabin 15 miles north, buried so deep in the forest that even the wolves avoided it. Kael had carried the children there in wolf form while Arden stumbled behind, every step agony. By the time they arrived, dawn was breaking through the trees like a wound. Finn and Lila were asleep on a pile of old blankets, huddled together for warmth. Kael sat against the wall, human again, watching them with an expression that made Arden's chest ache, like he couldn't quite believe they were still breathing. She sank down beside him, her burned hands wrapped in torn strips of her shirt. Neither of them spoke for a long time. I saw the map, she said finally. Kael didn't look at her. I know. How many others? At least 6 families, maybe more. His jaw tightened. Marcus wasn't just some hateful bastard acting alone. This was organized, coordinated. They're hunting shifters. Yeah. Do the others know? The families on that map? Some. But we're scattered, isolated. That's how they want it. Kael's hands clenched into fists. Pick us off one by one. Make it look like accidents, fires, hunting mishaps. Nobody questions when freaks die. Arden absorbed that. We need to warn them. With what? We have no proof. No evidence. Marcus is dead, his men are scattered, and the map burned with his house. He finally looked at her. We have nothing. We have each other. That's not enough. The words hung between them like a slap. Then what do you suggest? Arden's voice went hard. We hide here until they find us? Because they will find us, Kael. Men like that don't stop. I know that. Then what? I don't know. He stood abruptly, started pacing. I don't know, okay? I can't think straight. Everything I had is gone. My home, my life, the one place my kids felt safe. His voice cracked. I couldn't protect them. Again. You got them out alive. That's protecting them. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, I've just made them homeless refugees running for their lives. Great fathering there. Stop it. Stop what? Telling the truth? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Arden stood too, ignoring the screaming pain in her legs. You think you're the only one who's lost everything? I've been losing everything my whole life. And yeah, it sucks. It's terrifying and exhausting, and some days you want to just lie down and let the world win. But you don't, because there are people counting on you. Don't lecture me about, I'll lecture you all I want. She stepped closer, challenging. Those kids in there? They need you functional, not spiraling, not drowning in guilt, functional. So pull yourself together and figure out what we do next. Kyle stared at her, something dangerous flickering in his eyes. You don't get to tell me how to feel. Someone needs to. I could hurt you, the wolf. It's right there, right under my skin. One wrong word and I could... Then do it. Arden spread her arms. Shift. Tear me apart. At least then I wouldn't have to watch you tear yourself apart instead. For a heartbeat, she thought he might actually do it. The green bled through his irises, his breathing went ragged, his muscles tensed. Then he turned away, slamming his fist into the wall hard enough to crack wood. I can't do this, he said to the wall. I can't be what they need, what you need. Yes, you can. How do you know? Because you already are. He laughed, bitter and broken. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you ran into a burning building for your children. I know you've been carrying grief that would break most men and you're still standing. I know... She stopped, started again, softer. I know you're stronger than you think. K.L. pressed his forehead against the wall. I'm so tired, Arden. I know. I just want it to stop. All of it. The running, the fear, the... He stopped. I want my kids to be safe. That's all I want. Then we make that happen. How? Arden's mind raced through options. They needed allies, resources, information, but they had none of those things. What they had was her ability, his strength, and desperation. Sometimes desperation was enough. The other families on that map, she said slowly, you said you knew some of them. A few. Haven't spoken to them in years, but yeah. Can you reach them? Maybe, if they're still alive. Then that's where we start. We find them, we warn them, we build something Marcus and his people can't tear down. An alliance. A pack. Kale turned to look at her. You realize what you're suggesting? These people, they're not like me. Some are wolves, yeah, but others are bears, cats, things you don't have names for, and they don't trust easy. Hell, most of them will try to kill me on sight just for showing up unannounced. So we announce. With what? We have no status, no territory, nothing to offer. We have information. We know there's an organized group hunting shifters. That's worth something. Kale studied her for a long moment. This is insane. Probably. We could die. We could die hiding here too. At least this way we go down fighting. Despite everything, a ghost of a smile crossed his face. You're terrifying when you make sense. I've been told. The moment stretched, then Kyle nodded. Okay, we try it your way. But first, he glanced at the children. First we rest. A few hours. They need it. We need it. Agreed. They settled back against the wall, close enough that their shoulders touched. The contact was grounding, real. Arden? Kyle's voice was quiet. Yeah? Thank you. For not giving up on us. She didn't trust herself to speak, just reached over and took his hand. They fell asleep like that, fingers intertwined, two broken people holding each other together. The sound of hooves woke her. Arden's eyes snapped open. Outside, through the grimy window, she could see riders approaching. 4 of them, moving fast through the snow. Kyle. She shook him. We've got company. He was awake instantly, on his feet, already moving toward the children. How many? 4. On horseback. Hunters? I don't... She stopped. One of the riders had moved closer, into a shaft of sunlight. Arden could see her clearly now. A woman, maybe 40, with silver-streaked black hair and a face that looked carved from stone. I don't think so. The rider stopped 30 feet from the cabin. The woman dismounted, and even from here, Arden could see the way she moved. Predator grace, every motion controlled and precise. Shifter. Had to be. The woman called out, Kyle Thornridge, show yourself! Kael's expression went carefully blank. Stay here, he told Arden. Then louder. How do you know my name? Because your father told me to find you. Now get out here before I drag you out. Kyle and Arden exchanged a glance. His father? He'd never mentioned. My father's dead, Kale called back. Not according to the message he sent me 3 days ago. The woman's patience was clearly wearing thin. I don't have time for games, boy. Either you come out or I come in. Your choice. Kale moved to the door, positioned himself in the opening. Arden could see him from behind, spine straight, shoulders back, every inch the alpha, despite having nothing. My father died when I was 15, he said. The woman tilted her head, studying him. Then she laughed, sharp and humorless. Is that what he told you? That he was dead? That's what I was told, by everyone.
Well, they lied. She took a step closer. Roland Thornridge is very much alive, and he wants to see you. Specifically, he wants to meet the woman who can command ghosts. Every muscle in Arden's body went taut. She stepped into view beside Kyle. How do you know about that?
The woman's eyes locked onto her. They were amber, not human, not even pretending. Because the dead won't shut up about it. Been chattering for weeks about the girl who makes them listen, about the one who called an army of spirits to slaughter her enemies. Her smile was all teeth. You've made quite the impression. Who are you? Kale demanded. Vera Blackthorn. Your father's second. She gestured to the riders behind her. This is my pack, and we've been looking for you. Why? Because Roland thinks you might be useful, and because... She glanced at Arden again. Because if half the rumors about her are true, we need her. Need her for what? To win a war. The words fell like stones. What war? Arden asked. The one that's been building for 10 years, humans against shifters. We've been trying to avoid it, but after what happened to your estate. Vera shook her head. It's here, and we're out of time. Kale's hand found Arden's, squeezed once. A warning or reassurance, she couldn't tell. My father, he said carefully. Why now? Why reach out after 20 years of silence? Because you survived. Because you didn't break when they tried to destroy you. Because... Vera's expression softened slightly. Because he's dying, Kyle, and he wants to see his son before the end. The silence that followed was crushing. Arden felt Kyle's hand tighten around hers, felt the tremor running through him. How do I know you're telling the truth? He asked finally. Vera reached into her coat and pulled out something small, tossed it to Kyle. He caught it automatically, stared down at it. A ring, thick silver band with a wolf's head carved into it. Arden watched Kyle's face go pale. That's... His voice failed him. Your father's signet ring, the one he wore every day of his life until 3 days ago when he gave it to me and told me to bring you home. Vera's eyes never left his face. So, are you coming or not? Finn appeared in the doorway, Lila clutching his hand. Papa? What's happening? Kyle looked at his children, at Arden, at the ring in his hand. I need a minute, he said. You have 30 seconds, Vera replied. After that, I assume you're declining and we leave, without you. She turned and walked back to her horse, giving them the illusion of privacy. Kale pulled Arden inside, shut the door. His face was a war between hope and terror. My father left, he said quietly. When I was 15, my mother said he was dead. The whole pack said he was dead. I grieved him. Maybe she was trying to protect you. From what? The truth? He laughed harshly. He's been alive this whole time, alive, and he never once tried to contact me. Not when my mother died. Not when I mated. Not when my wife was murdered. Nothing, and now... He held up the ring. Now he wants to see me? Maybe he had reasons. What reasons could possibly justify... Kale stopped, looked at the children. What do we do? Arden's mind spun through options. Going with Vera was a risk, but staying here alone, hunted, that was certain death. We go, she said. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Shifter packs, they have rules, hierarchies. My father, if he's still alpha, he'll expect... Kale shook his head. I can't walk back into that world, not after everything. You can't hide from it either. Arden, listen to me. She grabbed his arms, forced him to focus. We need allies, resources, safety for your children. Vera's offering all of that. Maybe it's a trap. Maybe it's not. But we won't survive on our own. You know that. Cale stared at her for a long, agonizing moment. Then he nodded. Once. Final. Okay, we go. But if this goes sideways, then we fight our way out together. Together. He kissed her then. Quick and hard, and tasting like fear and desperation and something else she couldn't name. When he pulled back, his eyes were clear, decided. Let's go meet my father. The journey took 3 days. They rode hard, stopping only when the horses needed rest. Vera didn't speak much, and her packmates didn't speak at all. They communicated in glances and gestures, a language Arden didn't understand. Finn and Lila rode with Kyle, pressed against his back, silent and watchful. Arden had her own horse, a massive gray mare that seemed to sense her unease and compensated by being unnervingly gentle. The landscape changed as they traveled. The dead forest gave way to living woods, then to mountains, then to a valley that took Arden's breath away. The Thornridge territory. She'd expected something primitive, rough cabins, maybe, tents. What she saw was a town. Buildings made of stone and timber, arranged in concentric circles around a central longhouse. Smoke rose from chimneys. People moved through the streets, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Children playing, adults working, dogs that were probably wolves. A community. Welcome home, Vera said. There was something bitter in her tone. They rode through the outer circle. People stopped to stare. Some looked curious, others hostile. A few smiled, but most just watched with the flat intensity of predators assessing prey. Arden felt their eyes on her like physical weight, felt them judging, measuring, calculating. Outsider, their gazes said. Stranger. Threat. Kyle rode with his head high, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. This was his father's world, but it clearly wasn't his anymore. They stopped in front of the longhouse. Vera dismounted smoothly. Wait here, she said. Then she disappeared inside. The silence that followed was oppressive. Arden could hear whispers starting around them, could feel the tension building. Papa, Lila whispered. I don't like it here. I know, baby. Just stay close. The longhouse door opened. A man emerged. Old, maybe 70, but carrying it like a weapon. Tall, broad-shouldered despite his age, hair more silver than black. His face was weathered, scarred, the kind of face that had seen too much and forgotten none of it. But it was his eyes that stopped Arden cold. Cale's eyes. The exact same pale green. Roland Thornridge looked at his son for the first time in 20 years and smiled. Boy, he said. His voice was gravel and smoke. You look like shit. Cale dismounted slowly, stood facing his father across 10 feet of packed earth. You look alive, he said. For a dead man. Yeah, well, reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. By you. By necessity. Roland's smile faded. We need to talk inside, just you and me. No. Cale didn't raise his voice, but the word carried. Whatever you have to say, you say it here, in front of everyone, including her. He gestured to Arden. Roland's gaze shifted to her. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Interest? The ghost speaker, he said. Her name is Arden Vale. I know what her name is. Roland took a step forward. What I want to know is why you brought an outsider into pack territory. Why you're trusting someone who could destroy us all with a word. The hostility in his tone made Arden's hackles rise. I've never destroyed anyone who didn't deserve it. Yet. Roland's smile was cold. But you could. That's the point. You have power you don't understand and can't control. That makes you dangerous. She saved my life, Kyle said. His voice had dropped into something deeper, more dangerous. She saved my children. She's earned the right to be here. Has she? Or is she just another mouth to feed? Another liability in a war we're barely surviving? Careful. The word came out half growl. Roland laughed. There it is, the wolf. Wondered if you still had it in you after hiding for so long. I wasn't hiding. I was surviving. Same thing. Not even close. They stared at each other, father and son, Alpha and what? Arden couldn't read the dynamic. There was anger there, yes, hurt, but underneath something else, something complicated. You want to know why I faked my death? Roland asked abruptly. Why I left you and your mother? I spent 20 years wanting to know. Now? Cale's jaw tightened. Now I'm not sure I care. You should, because it's the same reason I called you here. Roland gestured around at the town, the people. This, all of this, I built it to survive what's coming, and what's coming, he stopped. It's worse than you think. I've seen the hunting parties, the fires, I know about the killings. You know a fraction of it. The humans, they're organizing, building an army. They've got funding, weapons, political backing. This isn't random violence anymore. It's genocide, systematic extermination. The word hung in the air like a curse. How long? Arden asked. Roland looked at her. How long have I known? 5 years. How long until they move against us openly? Months. Maybe weeks. And you think I can help with that? Cale's voice was flat. I'm one wolf. I have 2 children and a burned-out estate. What exactly do you need me for? I need you because you're my son. Because the pack needs an heir. Because I'm dying and someone has to take over before... No. The word cut like a knife. Roland's expression went hard. You don't get to refuse. Watch me. This isn't a request, Kyle. It's reality. I have 6 months, maybe less. The pack needs leadership, and by blood, and by right, that's you. I don't want it. What you want is irrelevant. This is about survival. My children's survival, not yours, not the pack's. They're the same thing. No, they're not. Kyle's control finally snapped. You left. You abandoned us. You let me think you were dead and I grieved you and you never once, his voice broke. You never once reached out. So don't stand there and tell me what I owe you. I owe you nothing. The silence that followed was crushing. Then Roland said very quietly, You're right. Cale blinked, clearly hadn't expected that. You're right, Roland repeated. I abandoned you, left you and your mother to fend for yourselves. It was cruel and it was wrong, and I have no excuse that makes it acceptable. He paused. But I did it to protect you. From what? From this. Roland gestured at himself. From the burden of being alpha. From the weight of all these lives depending on you. From having to make choices that destroy you piece by piece until there's nothing left but duty. His eyes were hollow. I wanted better for you. Wanted you to be free. So I left. Let you build a life outside all this. And how'd that work out? Cale's voice was bitter. My mate's dead. My home's destroyed. My children are homeless. That the freedom you wanted for me. No, that's what happens when you try to hide from what you are. Kyle lunged. Arden barely registered it. 1 second he was standing still. The next he had his father by the throat, slammed against the longhouse wall. Say that again, Kyle snarled. Say it's my fault she died. I dare you. Roland didn't fight back, just looked at his son with something that might have been sadness. It's not your fault, he said quietly. It's mine, for not preparing you, for not teaching you how to survive in a world that wants us dead, for making you think you could have a normal life. I could have... No, you couldn't. None of us can. That's the truth I've been running from, and you've been hiding from, and the humans have been trying to erase. Roland's hand came up, gripped Kyle's wrist, not fighting, just holding. We're not human. We never will be, and the sooner we accept that, the sooner we can fight back. Cale's grip loosened. I don't want to fight. I know, but we're out of choices. They stayed like that for a moment, then Cale let go, stepped back. I won't be alpha, he said. Then your children die, along with everyone else here. That's not... It's the truth. Without strong leadership, the pack fractures. Without a unified front, we're targets. Easy prey. Roland straightened, rubbing his throat. You think I want this for you? You think I want to dump this burden on my son? I don't. But I'm out of time and options. There has to be someone else. There isn't. Vera's strong, but the old guard won't follow her. The younger wolves don't have the experience. And the other families... He shook his head. They're barely holding on. You're it, Cale.
like it or not. Arden watched Cale's face cycle through emotions, rage, grief, resignation. Watched him look at his children, at her, at the town around them. Watched the moment he broke. "Fine," he said. The words sounded like surrender. "I'll stay. I'll listen. But I'm not promising anything."
"That's all I ask." Roland turned to head inside, then stopped. Looked back at Arden. "You too, Ghost Speaker. We have things to discuss." "Like what?" "Like why the dead are gathering. Like why they're waiting." His eyes were sharp. "Like what they want with you." A chill ran down Arden's spine. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. I can see it in your eyes. You've felt them watching, waiting for something, haven't you?" She had. Ever since the night she'd called them against Marcus. Ever since they'd come when she needed them and vanished when she didn't. "Come inside," Roland said, before someone gets ideas about testing the new arrivals. He disappeared into the longhouse. Kyle looked at Arden. "You don't have to do this." "Neither do you." "Yeah, I do." They followed Roland inside, children in tow. The longhouse was warm, fire crackling in a central pit. The walls were lined with weapons, axes, bows, swords, that looked older than the building itself. And everywhere, watching, were people. Pack members. Dozens of them. They fell silent as Kyle entered. Watching. Judging. Roland stood at the far end beside a massive chair carved from a single piece of wood. The Alpha's seat. "Sit," he said, gesturing to benches. They sat. The pack pressed closer, forming a circle. "Most of you know who this is," Roland said, his voice carrying. "For those who don't, this is my son, Kyle, and his children, Finn and Lila. They're here under my protection. Anyone who harms them answers to me." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, not all friendly. "And the woman?" someone called out. "What's she?" "She's under my protection too. She's not pack." "No, but she's useful, and we need useful right now." "We need fighters," a man said, stepping forward. He was huge, scarred, radiating aggression. "Not fragile humans who'll break the first time." Arden stood. The room went quiet. She walked forward until she was standing directly in front of the man. Had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, but she did it without flinching. "Say that again," she said softly. The man grinned. "Fragile human, weak, useless. That clear enough?" "Crystal," she called the ghost. They came instantly, pouring through the walls, through the floor, materializing out of nothing. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Filling the longhouse until the temperature dropped 20 degrees and frost formed on every surface. The pack members scrambled back, fear naked on their faces. The aggressive man tried to shift, but the ghosts wrapped around him like chains, held him frozen. Arden leaned in close. "I am not fragile," she whispered. "I am not weak, and I am definitely not useless. I command the dead. I can call them or dismiss them with a thought. I can make them rip you apart molecule by molecule, or I can make them leave you alone. Your choice." The man's eyes were wide with terror. "So here's what's going to happen," Arden continued. "You're going to apologize. You're going to back down. And you're going to remember that just because I'm human doesn't mean I'm helpless. Understand?" He nodded frantically. She released him. The ghost vanished. The man collapsed, gasping. Arden turned to face Roland. "Useful enough for you?" Roland was smiling. Actually smiling, wide and genuine. "Oh, I think you'll do just fine," he said. Then he collapsed. One moment he was standing, the next he was on the ground, convulsing. Blood poured from his nose, his ears. "Father!" Kale was at his side instantly. Vera appeared from somewhere, kneeling. "It's the sickness. It's getting worse." "What sickness?" Kale demanded. "Poison. Slow acting. Someone's been dosing him for months." Vera looked up, and her eyes were haunted. "Someone in the pack." The words dropped like a bomb. Arden's stomach turned to ice. "You mean—" "I mean there's a traitor here, someone working with the hunters, someone who's been killing him from the inside." Roland's eyes opened, found Kael's. "Trust no one," he gasped. "Not even—" His eyes rolled back. He went still. "Get the healer!" Vera shouted. But Arden could see it in the way she moved, the desperation in her voice. This wasn't something a healer could fix. Kael's father was dying, and whoever had poisoned him was standing in this room right now, watching, waiting. Arden turned slowly, scanning faces. Every person here was a suspect. Every smile could be fake. Every concerned expression could be. The healer came too late. Roland Thornridge died on the floor of his own longhouse, surrounded by his pack, with blood still leaking from his eyes and his son's hand clutching his. The last breath rattled out of him like broken glass, and the silence that followed was absolute. Kael didn't move, just knelt there, staring at the body of a man he'd thought was already dead for 20 years. His face was blank, empty, like something inside him had shut down completely. Arden reached for him. Kael, don't! The word was barely audible. Just don't. Vera stood, her expression carved from stone. Everyone out, now. The pack didn't move. I said out! Her voice cracked like a whip. They scattered. Within seconds, the longhouse was empty except for Kael, Arden, Vera, and the children huddled in the corner. Finn's face was pale. Lila was crying silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. Vera crouched beside Roland's body, closed his eyes with surprising gentleness. The poison was in his blood, had been for months. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Who had access to him? Arden asked. Everyone. He ate communal meals, drank from the same water supply. Anyone could have... Vera stopped, looked at Kael. You need to hear this. All of it. Kael didn't respond. 3 weeks ago, Roland started suspecting something was wrong. He'd been getting weaker, sicker. The healer couldn't figure out why. So he did his own investigation. Vera pulled a folded paper from her coat, found this hidden in the quarters of one of his most trusted advisors. She handed it to Arden. It was a letter, written in precise, careful handwriting. The old wolf is nearly dead. When he falls, move quickly. Kill the son if he comes. Kill anyone who stands with him. Leave no witnesses. Payment on completion as discussed. It was signed with a symbol Arden didn't recognize, a circle with a slash through it. That's the purge mark, Vera said, seeing her confusion. The humans hunting us. They've been calling themselves the Purification, started 5 years ago, small at first. Now? She laughed bitterly. Now they've got chapters in every major city, funding from people in power, and they're killing us faster than we can reproduce. Who was the traitor? Arden asked. The advisor? Dead. Roland confronted him 2 days before he sent for Kael. The bastard tried to run. Didn't make it far. So we're safe. No. Vera's eyes were hard. Because that letter says move quickly when he falls. Not if... when. Which means they knew the poison would work. Which means... There's more than one traitor, Kael said. His voice was flat, dead. Yeah. How many? I don't know. Could be one. Could be a dozen. Could be... Vera stopped. Could be anyone. The implications settled over them like a funeral shroud. Kael stood slowly, looked down at his father's body. Burn him. Traditional rites. Tonight. Kael, we need to find the traitors first. I said tonight. He turned to face Vera, and his eyes were green fire. My father is dead. I won't leave him rotting while we chase ghosts. They'll use the ceremony as cover, strike while we're distracted. Let them try. The challenge in his voice was unmistakable. Arden recognized it, the same tone he'd used right before shifting to fight the ghost. The tone of a man who'd been pushed past breaking and landed somewhere darker, somewhere dangerous. What are you planning? Arden asked quietly. Kael looked at her, really looked at her, and what she saw in his eyes made her blood run cold. I'm going to find every traitor in this pack, he said, and I'm going to rip their throats out. That's not justice. That's revenge. Call it whatever you want. They killed my father. They tried to kill my children. They deserve worse than death. But I'll settle for what I can give them. Kael, no. He stepped closer. You don't get it. You're not pack. You don't understand what this means. My father was Alpha. Killing him isn't just murder. It's a declaration of war. And war has rules. What rules? Blood for blood. Death for death. No mercy. His jaw tightened. I didn't want this. I tried to run from it, but they followed. They burned my home, threatened my kids, killed my father. So now? He smiled, and it was a wolf's smile. Now I stop running, and I start hunting. Vera was nodding. The pack will follow you, especially after what just happened. Roland's death makes you alpha by right of succession. I don't want... Doesn't matter. You are. The moment he died, the mantle passed to you. Every wolf here feels it. Every shifter in this territory knows it. She paused. You can't refuse this, Kale. Not anymore. Kale looked at his children, at Arden, back to his father's corpse. Fine, he said finally. I'm alpha, which means what I say goes, and what I say is this. We burn my father at sunset. Full pack attendance, no exceptions. And while they're watching the flames, his eyes glittered. We watch them. See who breaks, who runs, who can't meet my eyes. That's your plan? Arden couldn't keep the disbelief out of her voice. Stare at people until someone confesses? You have a better idea? Yeah, I use the ghosts. Ask the dead who poisoned Roland. You can do that? I don't know, but I can try. Vera was shaking her head. The pack won't accept evidence from ghosts. They'll say it's trickery, manipulation. Then we don't tell them where the information came from. Arden looked at Kyle. You want to find the traitors? Let me help. That's what you brought me here for, isn't it? To use my abilities? Kale stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. Do it, but be careful. If the traitors realize what you're doing, they'll come for me, I know. Arden crouched beside Roland's body. Everyone out. I need quiet. I'm staying, Kale said. Kyle, I'm staying. She could see it wasn't worth arguing. Fine. But no matter what you see or hear, don't interfere, understood? He nodded. Vera herded the children out, closing the door behind them. The longhouse fell silent except for the crackling fire. Arden placed her hand on Roland's chest, closed her eyes. The dead were always close, always watching, but calling them deliberately, asking them questions, that was different, harder. It required opening herself up completely, becoming a conduit, becoming vulnerable. She took a breath. Let it out slowly. Roland Thornridge, she whispered, if you're still here, if any part of you remains, I need to speak with you. Nothing. Please. Your son needs to know who killed you. Your pack needs justice. Still nothing. Then, like ice water down her spine, she felt it. A presence. Old, tired, angry. Roland's ghost materialized slowly, not fully formed like his mate had been, more like smoke given shape. Barely there, but it was him. You can see me. His voice was an echo, distant. I can. Good. Because we don't have much time. I can feel myself fading, pulled toward... He stopped. Doesn't matter. You want to know who poisoned me? Yes. It was Vera. The world stopped. Arden's eyes snapped open. Kale was staring at the ghost, his face white. What did you say? Kale's voice was barely a whisper. Roland's ghost looked at his son. I'm sorry. I wanted to be wrong, but I saw her 3 nights ago. She thought I was asleep. Put something in my water. When I confronted her, His form flickered. She said it was necessary, that I was too weak to lead, that the pack needed stronger blood. No. Kale was shaking his head. No, Vera's been loyal for 20 years. She wouldn't... She did. And she's planning to kill you too, tonight, during the burning ceremony. Roland's ghost was fading faster now. Trust no one. Protect your children, and tell them their grandfather loved them, even though he never met them. Tell them... He was gone. The silence that followed was crushing. Kale stood frozen, his face cycling through emotions too fast to track. Denial, rage, grief, horror. It can't be true, he said. She's been helping us. She brought us here. She brought you here to kill you, Arden said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Think about it, Kyle. She knew exactly where to find us. She had your father's ring. She knew about the poison before anyone else. and she's been pushing you to take the alpha position, so she can kill me and claim it for herself. Yes. Kael's hands clenched into fists. The air around him started to shimmer. Shift. The wolf rising. Kael, don't... She killed him. His voice was breaking. My father. She killed him and she looked me in the eye and lied about it. I know, but we need to be smart about this. If we confront her now, I don't care. The shift was starting, bones cracking, fur sprouting. I'm going to rip her apart. And what about the other traitors? What about the pack members helping her? You kill Vera now. In a rage, they go underground. They wait. They strike when you're vulnerable. Arden grabbed his face, forced him to focus. I know you're hurting. I know you want blood. But your children need you alive. So we do this smart. The wolf in Kael's eyes fought with the man. Slowly, agonizingly, the man won. The shift reversed. He was human again, gasping, shaking. What do we do? He asked. We pretend we don't know. We go through with the ceremony. We watch Vera make her move. And when she does? Arden's smile was cold. We make sure she fails. She'll have allies, people loyal to her. Then we need allies of our own. Who? Kael laughed bitterly. Everyone here is suspect. I can't trust anyone. You can trust your children. You can trust me. And you can trust the ghosts. Arden stood. I'll call them. During the ceremony, have them waiting. The second Vera moves, they attack. That could start a massacre. Better a massacre we control than one we don't. Kael stared at her. You've changed. When I met you, you were running from everything. Now you're planning battles like a general. I learned from watching you. How to stand and fight instead of flee. She paused. How to protect what matters. Something passed between them. Unspoken, but powerful. Then the door burst open. Vera stood there, and the expression on her face told Arden everything she needed to know. She'd heard. Somehow, she'd heard. Well, Vera said, closing the door behind her. This is unfortunate. Kael moved instantly, putting himself between Vera and Arden. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. Vera's hand went to the knife at her belt. I really hoped it wouldn't come to this. I like you, Kael. Genuinely. You're a good man, a good father. You would have made a decent alpha. Would have? Past tense. Because you're about to have a tragic accident. She smiled. Grief-stricken son, mourning his father, loses control during the ceremony. Shifts and goes feral. Attacks his own pack. Has to be put down. Very sad. Very tragic. And who puts me down? You? And about 30 wolves loyal to me. They're surrounding this building right now, waiting for my signal. Vera tilted her head. It's over, Kael. You lost the moment you walked into this territory. Why? The question came out raw. My father trusted you, loved you. Why betray him? Because he was weak. Because he wanted peace when we needed war. Because he thought we could hide here forever while the humans picked us off one by one. Vera's eyes blazed. I watched families die, watched children burn, and Roland did nothing, just kept preaching patience, understanding, coexistence. So you killed him. So I took control, the way it should have been done years ago. She drew her knife. Nothing personal, just survival. Kael's shift started, but Vera was faster. She moved like liquid, closing the distance before he could complete the change. Her knife flashed. Kael dodged, but not quite fast enough. The blade opened a line across his ribs. He roared, completed the shift. The massive gray wolf lunged. Vera shifted too. Black fur, yellow eyes, bigger than Kael by half. They crashed together in a tangle of teeth and claws. Arden scrambled back. Kael! The wolves ignored her. They were beyond words now, beyond anything but instinct and rage. Vera had her jaws around Kael's throat. He twisted, broke free, left skin and fur behind, lunged for her belly, missed as she rolled away. They circled each other, both bleeding, both panting. The door shook. Voices outside. Vera's allies realizing something was wrong. Arden made a choice. She called the ghosts. They came like a flood, pouring through the walls, through the floor, through the ceiling, dozens of them, hundreds, more than she'd ever summoned before. So many the temperature plummeted and frost covered everything in seconds. The ghosts wrapped around the door, holding it shut, wrapped around the windows, created a barrier of cold and death between the longhouse and the outside world. Vera shifted back to human, eyes wide. What the fuck? Cale didn't give her time to finish. He shifted mid-leap, human hands grabbing her throat, slamming her against the wall. You killed him. Say it. I did what needed to be done. Say it. Yes. Vera's eyes were wild. I killed him. He was weak and old, and we needed a real alpha, someone willing to fight. Then you should have challenged him openly, not poisoned him like a coward. He wouldn't have fought. He would have stepped down, handed power to you or some other bleeding heart who'd get us all killed with kindness. Cale's hands tightened. Vera's face was turning purple. Cale, Arden said quietly, don't. Why not? She deserves it. Because you're not a killer, not like her. Arden stepped closer. You're better than this. Better than her. Am I? Cale's voice broke. Because right now, all I want is to watch her die. I know, but your children are outside. They don't need to see their father become a monster. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Kael's grip loosened. Vera collapsed, gasping. Bind her, Kael said. His voice was hollow. We'll let the pack decide her fate. Arden used strips of torn cloth to tie Vera's hands. The woman didn't fight, just stared at Kael with something that might have been respect. You're weak, she said, just like him, and it's going to get you killed. Maybe, but at least I'll die with a soul. The ghosts released the door. It burst open immediately. Wolves poured in, Vera's allies, weapons drawn. They stopped when they saw her bound, saw Kael standing over her, saw the ghost still hovering in the corners. Your leader, Kael said, his voice carrying, is a traitor and a murderer. She poisoned my father, planned to kill me, planned to seize control of this pack through deception and violence. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lies, one of Vera's allies said, a big man with scars across his face. You killed Roland yourself, came here to take what wasn't yours. Then let the ghosts tell the truth. Arden stepped forward. Let the dead speak. She called Roland's ghost again. He came, weaker now, barely visible, but visible enough. Tell them, she said. Tell them what you told us. Roland's ghost looked at the assembled pack. Vera Blackthorn poisoned me. I witnessed it myself. She acted with malice and premeditation. She is guilty. And he looked at his son. Kael is the rightful alpha, by blood and by my final decree. Anyone who challenges him challenges me. Then he faded completely. Gone. The silence was absolute. Then slowly, the pack members began to kneel. One by one, even Vera's allies, submitting to the new alpha, all except the scarred man. I don't bow to anyone, he said, especially not some outsider who... Kael moved. One moment he was standing still. The next he had the man by the throat, lifted off the ground. You have two choices, Kael said softly. Kneel or leave. But if you stay and refuse to submit, I will rip your spine out and feed it to the crows. That clear enough? The man's face went white. He nodded frantically. Kael dropped him. The man scrambled to his knees, head bowed. Anyone else? Kael's voice carried to every corner of the longhouse. Anyone else want to test me? Want to challenge the legitimacy of my claim? Silence. Good. Kael looked at Vera. You'll be tried at dawn. The pack will vote on your punishment. Until then, you're confined. He gestured to two of the kneeling wolves. Take her to the holding cells. Anyone who helps her escape dies with her. They dragged Vera away. She didn't fight, just looked back at Kael with something that might have been pity. You won't last a month, she called out. The humans are coming, and you're not ready. The door slammed shut behind her. Kael stood in the center of the longhouse, surrounded by kneeling wolves, and Arden could see the weight of it crushing him, the mantle of Alpha, the responsibility for all these lives. Rise, he said quietly. They rose. My father will be burned at sunset as planned, full honors, and after, he paused. After, we prepare for war. Because Vera was right about one thing. The humans are coming, and this time, we'll be ready. The pack dispersed slowly, filing out in silence. Soon, only Kyle and Arden remained. He sank down onto the Alpha's chair, put his head in his hands. "I can't do this," he whispered. Arden knelt in front of him. "Yes, you can. I'm not my father. I don't know how to lead, how to make the choices he made." "Then make different choices. Be a different kind of Alpha." "What if I fail?" "Then you fail. But at least you tried." She took his hands. "You've been running from this your whole life, from your heritage, your nature, your power. But running ends here, now. This is who you are, Kyle, and it's time to accept it." He looked at her and his eyes were haunted. "What if I lose myself, become something I hate? Then I'll remind you who you are, every day if I have to. You're not Pack. No, but I'm yours, if you'll have me." The words hung between them. A promise. A commitment. Kyle pulled her close, kissed her like she was the only real thing in a world gone mad. When they broke apart, his eyes were clearer, stronger. "We burn my father at sunset," he said. "And then we find out exactly how many traitors are still hiding. Because Vera didn't do this alone. The letter mentioned payment. Someone's funding them." "Yeah, and I intend to find out who." They stood together, hands clasped, facing the future. Outside, the sun was setting, turning the sky blood red. The pack gathered for the burning. Roland Thornridge's body was laid on a platform of wood, dressed in ceremonial furs, weapons placed at his sides. The pack formed a circle around the pyre, hundreds of them, silent and watchful. Kale stood at the head, Finn and Lila on either side. Arden stayed slightly behind, giving them space for their grief. As Alpha, it was Kyle's duty to light the pyre. He took the torch, held it for a moment, staring at his father's face. "I never got to know you," he said quietly. "Never got the chance to understand you. But I promise, I'll protect what you built. I'll keep them safe. All of them." He touched the torch to the wood. The flames caught instantly, spread fast. Within minutes, the pyre was fully engulfed. The pack began to howl, a mournful sound that sent chills down Arden's spine. One voice at first, then two, then dozens, then hundreds. A chorus of grief and respect. Kale threw back his head and howled with them. His children joined in, their voices high and pure. Arden watched the flames consume Roland's body, watched the smoke rise toward the darkening sky. And she watched the pack, looking for anyone who didn't howl, anyone who seemed uncomfortable, anyone who... There, a woman, standing at the edge of the circle, not howling, just watching Kyle with cold calculation. Arden memorized her face, would point her out to Kyle later. But for now, she let them grieve. The ceremony lasted until the fire burned down to embers, until there was nothing left but ash and memory. Then, one by one, the pack dispersed. Kyle stayed until the last ember died. Finally, he turned to Arden. "It's done." "Yeah. What happens now?" Before she could answer, a messenger ran up. Young Wolf, barely more than a teenager, breathing hard. "Alpha," he gasped. "Scouts just reported. There's an army coming. Humans, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They'll be here by dawn." The blood drained from Kale's face. "How far?" 5 miles. Moving fast. They've got guns, torches. They're not here to talk." Kale looked at Arden. "Guess we're out of time." "Guess so." He raised his voice, calling to the pack members still within earshot. "War Council, now! Everyone who can fight, to the Longhouse." They came running. Within minutes, the Longhouse was packed. Wolves, bears, cats, every shifter in the territory who could hold a weapon. Kyle stood at the head, and for the first time he looked like an Alpha. Commanding, powerful, sure. "The humans are coming," he said. "They want us dead, want our land, want to erase us from existence, and they're bringing an army to do it." Silence. "We have 2 choices, run or fight. Running means abandoning everything we've built, everything my father died protecting. It means scattering to the winds and hoping they don't hunt us down one by one." He paused. "Fighting means making a stand. Here, now, against impossible odds. A lot of us won't survive. But his voice strengthened. But we'll die free. On our own land, protecting our own people. I vote we fight, someone called out. Same. Hell yes. The voices grew louder, became a chant. Fight, fight, fight. Kael let it build, then raised his hand for silence. Then we fight, and we fight smart. Arden? He looked at her. Can the ghosts help? Every eye turned to her. Arden's throat went dry. She'd never commanded an army of the dead, didn't know if she could, didn't know if they'd even listen, but she nodded anyway. Yes, she said, the ghosts will fight. Good, because we're going to need every advantage we can get. Kyle turned to his war council. Fortify the perimeter, set traps, arm everyone, even the children old enough to hold a weapon, and get me scouts. I want to know exactly what we're up against. They scattered, moving with purpose. Kyle pulled Arden aside. Can you really command them? The ghosts? I don't know, but I have to try. And if they won't listen? Then we're all dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. He laughed, sharp and humorless. Fair point. Kyle. She gripped his arms. Whatever happens tomorrow, don't. Don't say goodbye, not yet. I wasn't going to. I was going to say... She stopped, started again. I was going to say that I'm glad I walked into that forest. Glad I found you, even if it ends badly. It won't end badly. We're going to win. How do you know? Because I'm not losing you, not after just finding you. He kissed her, hard and desperate. We survived this, together. That's not a hope. It's a fact. Arden wanted to believe him, but as the night wore on, as the scouts brought back reports of the army's size and strength, belief became harder. 3,000 soldiers, armed with rifles, cannons, torches, led by commanders who'd been planning this for years, against 300 shifters, most of them civilians, women, children, elders. The numbers didn't lie. This wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. But as dawn approached, as the pack assembled for war, Arden realized something. They weren't fighting to win. They were fighting because surrender meant extinction. And extinction wasn't an option. Kyle stood at the front line, already shifted, a massive gray wolf radiating authority. Beside him, Arden stood in human form, her hands raised, calling. The ghosts came at dawn. Arden stood at the front line, her hands raised toward the sky, and called them with everything she had. Not just the recent dead, not just the angry ones, all of them, every spirit that had ever walked these woods, every soul that had died in violence or grief or fear. She called them by name and by feeling, by memory and by rage, and they answered. They rose from the earth like fog, poured from the trees like water, materialized out of nothing until the air itself seemed alive with the dead. Hundreds of them, thousands, an army of ghosts standing shoulder to shoulder with the living. The human soldiers saw them coming and hesitated. That hesitation cost them everything. Kael howled and the pack surged forward. The battle that followed was chaos incarnate. Gunfire cracked through the morning air, but the ghosts absorbed the bullets, rendered them harmless. The soldiers tried to run, but the spirits cut off their retreat, herding them back toward the shifters. Arden walked through it all like a conductor leading an orchestra of death. She didn't fight directly, didn't need to. The ghosts followed her slightest gesture, her smallest thought. When she pointed, they attacked. When she raised her hand, they held back. She'd become something she didn't recognize, something powerful and terrifying, something that made even the shifters keep their distance. Kael fought in wolf form, tearing through soldiers with mechanical efficiency. No rage now, no loss of control, just cold, brutal calculation. He was protecting his territory, his pack, his children. Nothing else mattered. A man in officer's uniform tried to rally the soldiers. They're just animals, stand your ground. Kael shifted mid-leap, landing in human form directly in front of the officer. Naked, bloody, eyes blazing green. Just animals? He said softly. Let me show you what animals can do. He shifted again. The wolf's jaws closed around the officer's throat. The man's scream cut off abruptly. The soldiers broke, turned and ran. The ghosts pursued. Arden let them go for 50 yards, then called them back. Enough! Let them run! Let them tell others what happens when you come for us. The ghosts obeyed, stopped, watched the humans flee into the forest. The battlefield fell silent, bodies everywhere. Human bodies mostly, but not all. Arden could see shifters down too, bleeding, dying, some already dead, the price of victory. Kale shifted back to human, staggering. He was covered in blood, his and others. His ribs showed through torn skin. One eye was swollen shut, but he was alive. Arden ran to him. "You're hurt." "I'm fine." He wasn't, but he stayed upright through sheer will. The pack? Alive, most of them. Most? The word hit him like a blow. "How many did we lose?" "I don't know yet." A young wolf approached, limping. "Alpha, we count 17 dead, 32 wounded." 17. Out of 300. It could have been worse, should have been worse, but 17 was still 17 families destroyed, 17 futures erased. Kael's face went gray. "See to the wounded, burn our dead with honor, and," his voice cracked, "and find out who they were. I want to know every name." The wolf nodded and limped away. Kael sank down onto the blood-stained ground, just sat there, staring at nothing. Arden sat beside him, didn't speak, just stayed close. Around them, the pack moved through the aftermath, gathering bodies, tending wounds, crying, some in human form, some as animals, all united in grief. "I did this," Kael said finally. "I led them into battle, and 17 of them died. You saved 283. Doesn't feel like it." "No, it wouldn't." Arden took his hand. "But you gave them a choice, run or fight. They chose to fight. That's on them, not you. I'm the alpha. Everything is on me. Then carry it, but don't carry it alone." He looked at her. Blood and dirt streaked his face, but his eyes were clear. "How are you so calm? You just commanded an army of the dead, killed dozens of people. How are you not falling apart?" "Who says I'm not?" Arden's hands were shaking. She clasped them together to hide it. "I'm terrified. I don't know what I've become. Don't know if I can ever go back to being the person I was before all this." "Do you want to go back?" The question hung between them. Did she? The old Arden had been powerless, alone, running from town to town, never belonging anywhere. This Arden commanded ghosts, had a place, had people who needed her, had Kael. "No," she said. "I don't want to go back, but I'm scared of what going forward means." "Yeah, me too." They sat in silence as the sun rose higher. Around them, the pack worked, life continuing despite death. Because it had to, because survival meant moving forward even when you wanted to stop. Finn and Lila found them an hour later. Both were dirty but unhurt. They'd been hidden in the safest part of the territory during the battle. "Papa!" Lila threw herself at Kael. He caught her despite his injuries, held her close. "I'm okay, baby. We're okay. I was so scared." "I know, but it's over now. We won." "Did we?" Finn's voice was older than his years. "Because it doesn't feel like winning." Kael looked at his son and saw the truth staring back at him. The boy had aged in the last few days, seen too much, lost too much. They all had. "No," Kael said quietly. "It doesn't. But we're alive. And that's enough for today." The pack insisted on a victory feast that night. Kael tried to refuse, but they wouldn't hear it. "We need this," an older wolf said. "Need to celebrate life while we still have it. The dead would want us to." So they feasted. Roasted meat, fresh bread, whatever food could be scrounged. It wasn't elaborate, but it was communal, shared. The pack gathered in the longhouse, filling every available space. Children ran between the adults. Couples held hands. Friends embraced. Life. Stubborn and persistent despite everything. Kael sat in the alpha's chair, Finn and Lila on either side. Arden stood slightly behind, still not quite pack, but no longer an outsider either, somewhere in between, like always. An old woman approached. She had white hair and kind eyes. "Alpha, may I speak?" Kael nodded. "My grandson died in the battle. He was 19, barely grown." Her voice was steady, but tears streamed down her face. "And I want to thank you." Kael went very still. "For what?" "For giving him the chance to die protecting his home instead of being hunted like an animal. For giving him a choice. for making him feel like he mattered. She placed a weathered hand on Kael's shoulder. "You're a good alpha. Your father would be proud." She walked away before he could respond. Kael's composure cracked. He buried his face in his hands. Arden knelt beside him. "Breathe." "I can't." "Yes, you can. In and out. Focus on that." He did. One breath. Then another. Slowly the panic receded. "She thanked me," he whispered. "Her grandson is dead, and she thanked me. Because you gave him meaning, purpose. That matters to people. It shouldn't. He should be alive. They all should be alive." "Yeah, but they're not. And you can spend the rest of your life drowning in guilt, or you can honor them by being the alpha they died protecting." Kael looked up at her. "When did you get so wise?" "When I stopped running from who I am." He pulled her down onto his lap, ignoring the startled looks from the pack. Kissed her, in front of everyone. When they broke apart, the longhouse had gone silent. Every eye was on them. "This woman," Kael said, his voice carrying, "saved us all. She commanded the dead, turned the tide of battle, gave us victory. And she's not Pack. She's not one of us, but—" He looked at Arden. "But she could be. If she wants." Arden's heart stopped. "What are you asking?" "I'm asking you to stay, permanently, not as a guest, not as an ally, as Pack, as—" He stopped, started again. "As my mate." The silence deepened. "Kael, I'm human. I don't care. Your Pack might. Then they can leave." He stood, bringing her with him. "Anyone here have a problem with this?" No one spoke. "Good, because I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you. Arden Vale is my mate. She's Pack. And anyone who challenges that challenges me." Still silence. Then, slowly, people began to smile. One person started clapping, then another. Then the whole longhouse erupted in cheers. Arden stood frozen, overwhelmed. Kael leaned in close. "You don't have to answer now. Just think about it. Please." "I don't need to think about it." Her voice was steady. "Yes." "Yes?" "Yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll be Pack. Yes, I'll—" She stopped. "Yes to all of it." He kissed her again, deeper this time, claiming her in front of everyone. When they broke apart, the Pack was howling approval. Later, after the feast died down, after the Pack dispersed to their homes, Kael and Arden walked through the empty streets. Finn and Lila were asleep in the longhouse, watched over by trusted Pack members. For the first time in days, Kael and Arden were alone. "Are you sure about this?" Kael asked. "Mating a shifter, it's permanent, binding. You'd be tied to me for life." "I know. You'd have to deal with Pack politics, territorial disputes, the constant threat of humans trying to kill us." "I know." "You'd have to help raise my children, be a mother to them." "I know." She stopped, turned to face him. "Kael, I know what I'm agreeing to, and I want it, all of it, the good and the bad." "Why?" "Because for the first time in my life I belong somewhere. Because I love those kids like they're already mine. Because—" She took a breath. "Because I love you, and I'm tired of being alone." Kael pulled her close. "I love you too. Have since you threw yourself in front of that glass to protect my children, maybe even before that." They stood there holding each other under the stars. "What happens now?" Arden asked. "Now? Now we rebuild, strengthen our defenses, reach out to the other shifter families, build alliances." He paused. "And we prepare, because the humans will come back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but they'll come. Then we'll be ready." "Yeah, we will." They walked back to the longhouse hand in hand. The next morning, Vera's trial was held. The entire Pack assembled. Vera stood in the center, bound, defiant. Kael sat in the Alpha's chair, every inch the leader now. "Vera Blackthorn, you're accused of murder, treason, and conspiracy. How do you plead?" "Guilty. No hesitation. I did what needed to be done, and I'd do it again. Even knowing it would lead to this? Especially knowing that. Roland was weak. You're weak. This Pack needs a real alpha. Someone willing to make the hard choices. And you think you're that person? I know I am.
Kael leaned forward.
Then challenge me. Right here, right now. Alpha challenge. Winner takes the pack.
Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Vera smiled. You sure about that, boy? I'm bigger, stronger, more experienced. I'm sure. You'll die. Maybe, but at least it'll be honest, not poison in the dark. Vera's smile faded. You really are your father's son. Too noble for your own good. She paused. But fine. I accept.
The pack formed a circle. Kael and Vera faced each other across 10 feet of packed earth. Rules are simple, Kael said. First to submit or die loses. No interference from anyone, no weapons, just teeth and claws. And when I win? Vera asked. You won't. Confident. I like that. Makes the fall harder. They shifted simultaneously. The black wolf and the gray wolf circled each other, both huge, both deadly. Vera struck first, lunged for Kael's throat. He dodged, twisted, went for her legs, caught her ankle, bit down hard. She yelped, kicked free. Blood streamed from the wound. They circled again. This time Kael attacked first, went high, forcing her to rear up, then dropped low under her guard and slashed her belly with his claws. More blood. Vera was faster than him, stronger, but Kael was smarter, fought like someone who'd spent years being hunted, using every advantage, every trick. He led her in circles, wore her down, waited for the moment she overextended. There. Vera lunged for what she thought was an opening. Kael let her come. Then at the last second, he shifted his weight, grabbed her neck with his jaws, twisted, hard. Vera hit the ground. Kael stood over her, teeth at her throat. Submit or die. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Vera shifted back to human, bleeding, gasping, but alive. I yield, she said. Kael released her, shifted back. The pack erupted in cheers. The trial is over, Kael said. Vera Blackthorn is guilty, but instead of execution, I'm offering exile. Leave this territory, never return. If you do, you die. That's my judgment. Vera stared at him. You're letting me live? I'm giving you the same choice you never gave my father, life or death. Choose. Why? Because I'm not you, and I never will be. Vera stood slowly, looked at the pack, back to Kael. You're going to regret this. Mercy is weakness. Maybe, but it's my weakness to bear. She left without another word. Walked out of the circle, out of the territory. Gone. The pack cheered louder. Kael raised his hand for silence. The threat isn't over. Vera was right about one thing. The humans will come back. But next time we'll be ready. Next time we'll have allies. Next time, he looked at Arden, next time we'll show them what it means to challenge pack. The cheers became howls. Arden stood beside Kael, and for the first time she felt it. The bond. The connection to every person here. She was pack now. Truly. And it felt like home. 3 months later, the nightmares finally stopped. Arden woke in the pre-dawn darkness, Kael's arm heavy across her waist. She listened to his breathing, steady, deep, peaceful. No screams tonight, no thrashing, no waking up drenched in sweat and fear, just sleep. She slipped out of bed carefully, pulled on clothes, stepped outside. The territory was quiet. A few early risers moving around. Children playing near the stream. Dogs. Actual dogs, not shifters, barking at shadows. Normal. Or as normal as life with shifters could be. She walked to the edge of the territory, to the spot where they'd burned Roland, where the battle had been fought. The ground was green now, new growth covering the scars. Can't sleep? Arden turned. Finn stood behind her, taller than he'd been 3 months ago, growing into his father's build. Just thinking, she said. About what? About how far we've come, how much has changed. Finn came to stand beside her. Do you regret it? Staying? No. Do you regret me being here? He was quiet for a moment. At first, yeah. I thought you were just using us, that you'd leave when things got hard. He looked at her. But you didn't. You stayed. You fought for us. He stopped. You're good for Papa, And for Lila, even for me, I guess. High praise from you. He almost smiled. Don't let it go to your head. They stood in comfortable silence. Finn, Arden said quietly, thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for not wasting it. He walked away, back toward the longhouse. Arden stayed a while longer, watching the sun rise, watching the territory wake up. This was her life now. Not perfect, not easy, but hers. And that was enough. She turned to head back and found Kyle waiting. He'd pulled on pants, but nothing else. His chest was crisscrossed with scars from the battle, from Vera, from a lifetime of fighting. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just needed some air. Liar. You were saying goodbye. She blinked. What? To the person you used to be, the one who ran, who hid, who never stayed. He stepped closer. I recognize it because I did the same thing, 3 months ago, the night after the battle. And what did you decide? That the past is dead, and I'm tired of living there. He took her hand. So I choose this. Choose now. Choose you. Arden's throat tightened. I choose you too. He kissed her, soft and slow. No urgency, just presence. When they broke apart, the sun was fully up, the territory fully awake. Come on, Cale said. Lila's making breakfast. Well, attempting to. We should probably supervise before she burns down the kitchen. Again. They walked back together, toward the longhouse, toward the family they'd built from ruins. Behind them, the ghosts watched, silent, waiting, but not threatening, never threatening, because Arden had made them a promise. As long as she lived, as long as she could speak, she would remember them, honor them, give them voice when the living forgot. And in return, they protected her, protected the pack, protected this fragile piece they'd carved from violence. It wouldn't last forever. Nothing did. But for now, in this moment, it was enough. Cale pushed open the longhouse door. Inside, chaos. Lila was covered in flour. Finn was trying to salvage whatever she'd attempted to cook. Pack members were laughing, helping, being family. Cale looked at Arden. Last chance to run. Not a chance. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. Possessive much? You have no idea. She laughed, real and genuine, a sound she'd forgotten how to make until she met him. They stepped inside together, into the warmth, into the noise, into life. The door closed behind them. Outside, the forest was quiet. The dead rested. The living thrived. And in the space between, Arden Vale, ghost speaker, outsider, survivor, had finally found where she belonged, not despite the darkness, because of it. Not running from her power, embracing it, not alone, never alone again. She was pack, she was home, and no one, living or dead, human or shifter, would ever take that from her again. Years would pass, children would grow, alliances would form. The humans would test them again, and each time the pack would stand firm. Because they'd learned something the hard way. Strength wasn't just claws and teeth. It was community, connection, love fierce enough to burn the world. And they had all three. Cale became the alpha his father never was. Fair but firm. Strategic but compassionate. Leading not through fear but through earned respect. Arden became the bridge between the living and the dead. The voice of those who couldn't speak. The protector who saw things others missed. Together, they built something that lasted. Not perfect, but real. And in the end, that was all anyone could ask for. A life hard won. A family hard fought. A love that survived everything the world threw at it and came out stronger. The story could have ended 100 different ways. With death, with betrayal, with the pack destroyed and the survivors scattered. But it didn't. It ended with hope. Stubborn, fierce, unbreakable. The kind of hope that says we survived today and we'll survive tomorrow too. The kind that makes the difference between existing and living. And as Arden sat at the table, Kael's hand in hers, children laughing around them, pack members sharing stories and food and life, she realized something. She'd spent her whole life being defined by what she'd lost, by what she couldn't have, by what she wasn't. But here, now, she was defined by what she'd found. family, purpose, belonging. The ghosts had led her to this frozen forest, to a wolf with human eyes, to children who needed saving and a man who needed hope. And in saving them, she'd saved herself. Not from death, from emptiness, from a life half-lived, a life spent running. She'd stopped running, and what she found when she stood still was everything. Kale squeezed her hand. You good? Arden smiled. Yeah, I'm good. Love you. Love you too. Simple words said 1,000 times by 1,000 people. But here, in this moment, they meant everything. They meant survival, commitment, forever. The kind of forever that's built one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of staying instead of leaving. Outside, snow began to fall. The same snow that had nearly killed her the night she arrived. But this time, she watched it from warmth, from safety, from home. The dead whispered their approval. The living celebrated. And somewhere in between, Arden Vale, the girl who'd always been different, always been wrong, always been too much and not enough, finally became exactly who she was meant to be. Not despite her strangeness, because of it. Not broken, whole. And as the snow fell and the fire crackled and the pack sang old songs about survival and joy and the stubborn refusal to die, Arden closed her eyes. And for the first time in her entire life, she was at peace.